in the stories we tell. If you liked the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. When I was 15, a noble lady from the capital city came to visit. Grandmother Lu was lying sick in bed, holding that lady's hand, asking, "Has the marriage for brother Leo been settled yet?" The lady wiped away her tears and replied, "It is settled. It is a maid in the manor." Grandmother Lu coughed lightly twice and smiled. "It is better not to let maid marry him." Saying that, she pulled my hand over. "My family has little Joy who has just reached the age of marriage, let the child marry over there." The lady replied, "Sister Molly, that place is a pit of fire." Grandmother continued to smile. "I fear I cannot hold on for much longer. My little Joy is simple-minded, but her nature is extremely gentle. Sister, I beg you, please protect the child." Grandmother took out a crookedly embroidered purse, tremblingly tied it to me, her eyes filled with tears. "Once you are married over there, Joy Fang, do not cause your mother-in-law any trouble." I followed the lady on a boat leaving Yangjo. Amidst the misty rain, Madame Chen held my hand, while Grandmother Lu stood on the shore waving goodbye. I asked the lady, "Is it far from the capital city to Yangjo? I want to return to visit grandmother." Madame Chen took a handkerchief and gently wiped the tear falling from my chin. "It is not far, it takes half a month by boat. Whenever little Joy misses her sister, just come back." I nodded and asked again, "Who is brother Leo? Does he know I will marry him?" Madame Chen smiled gently. "His name is Leo Chen, my son. He will treat you well." Hearing that, I finally felt at ease. The boat headed toward the capital city. The rocking made me dizzy. I vomited for several days and then developed a fever. In my delirium, I missed grandmother. Surely when she was sick, she suffered like this, only she never said it. My parents only had me, both died early, leaving the house to Uncle Nathan. Uncle Nathan was always at odds with my father, so he did not like me either. During the days of living under someone else's roof, only grandmother protected me, so I could be peaceful in her courtyard. But now, her body is getting weaker every day. Uncle Nathan wanted to marry me to the youngest son of the admiral. That man was extravagant and dissolute. Before even marrying a wife, he kept a flock of mistresses in his courtyard. Because of this, grandmother argued fiercely with Uncle Nathan. I stood outside the door silently listening, holding a box of roast duck pastry she told me to bring from the kitchen. "As long as these old bones still have a breath, I will absolutely not let little Joy marry into that wolf's den." Grandmother's voice was loud. Knowing I could not enter the room that day, I sat down, opened the cake box, and hugged it while weeping. "You only care about the eldest brother's daughter, but what about my son? Vincent Fang is also your grandson. He wants to establish a career in the military, doesn't he need someone to support him? Why don't you think for your nephew a little? If he wants fame, he should earn it himself. Do not use my little Joy to pave the way for him. You have plans for Vincent's future, but what about little Joy? She is an orphan. Without an old woman like me, she would have been exploited by you to the bone long ago." I heard grandmother cough violently a few times. It must have been a relapse, but I dared not go in to give her medicine, only listening to the two of them arguing endlessly. "Mother, Joy is just a child, why do you care about her so much? From a young age, the eldest brother was a sick ghost, yet you and father both favored him, letting him choose everything first while I endured. Now that he is gone and left behind a useless daughter, you still defend her." Grandmother coughed violently and could not speak properly, only struggling to say, "Only have one sentence. My little Joy will absolutely not marry that bastard son of the admiral." Uncle Nathan kicked the door open. "I won't give a single coin for Joy's dowry if she doesn't marry the admiral's son. Just watch and see what kind of husband's family she can marry into." Saying that, he walked past me without even glancing once. I still bowed to pay my respects. Uncle Nathan walked leisurely, then hurriedly ran in to help grandmother up to take her medicine. Grandmother drank the medicine while beating her chest, gasping, "Little Joy, rest assured, as long as grandmother is here, I will definitely protect you." The roast duck pastry today was made too salty, choking my throat, making my eyes sting as soon as I opened my mouth. I could only remain silent without saying a word. One old, one young, relying on each other in that small room. After that, grandmother's illness became heavier. Amidst the arguments with Uncle Nathan, I also finished the coming-of-age ceremony. Before the admiral's family came to propose, the duchess from the capital city had traveled all the way to Yangjo to visit grandmother, and my marriage was settled. I did not know what my future husband looked like, but looking at the lady's appearance, her son must not be bad. I did not know what his temperament was like, but with such a kind mother, life would surely not be too difficult. After all, the person grandmother chose for me would surely be a good person. At the moment of parting, I held grandmother's hand. Hot tears overflowed from her cloudy eyes. She took off the jade bracelet from her wrist. Grandmother is useless and left no dowry for you. This bracelet is worth some silver. Keep it as a keepsake and also leave a way out for yourself. Grandmother, I choked with sobs, unable to speak, keep it for protection. Little Joy is unfilial, having not yet honored you but causing you worry. How dare I accept more of your things? Silly girl, grandmother still has other things for protection. Grandmother shook her hand, and the small bell on the floral cord rang softly. I braided this myself and brought it to the Bodhisattva temple for consecration. This floral cord is like my little Joy, always by grandmother's side, blessing grandmother, keeping grandmother safe and healthy. Grandmother did not let me refuse and immediately put the jade bracelet on my wrist. Do not cry anymore. My little Joy is about to get married, about to become an adult. When encountering problems, you must be steady and stand firm. I wiped my tears, but they would not dry. I felt my eyes were like a spring flowing endlessly. Then grandmother turned to the Va who was wiping tears beside her and spoke softly. Sister, I hand little Joy over to you. The girl is still young, and mistakes are inevitable. If one day something makes you unhappy, please be tolerant and understanding. Why do you speak like that, Sister Molly? In the future I will treat little Joy as my own daughter. Madame Cheng held my hand. A fine dust, like rain, fell from the sky, lingering endlessly. It turned out that the moment of parting always had rain falling, like a farewell, and like a whimpering cry. Under grandmother's gaze, I boarded the boat with the lady and left Yangjo, leaving the place that raised me for 15 years. My grandmother still stood on the riverbank behind, watching me go toward the capital city with reluctance and unwillingness to part. For my future, she had calculated for the last time in her life. The capital city was bustling and brilliant. Compared to the wealthy water region like Yangzhou, it added a sense of majesty and solemnity. On the road, carriages were like flowing water, people were crowded, and noble officials rode horses with their heads held high, leisurely passing by. Sometimes they were newly promoted nobles, sometimes they were meritorious families spanning generations. Madame Cheng saw me sitting curled up and spoke softly. Does little Joy remember these streets? You have been here when you were small. I shook my head slightly. I had no memory at all. The lady sighed softly. That is right, you were only 2 years old then. The Fang family originally had a place in the capital city, but unfortunately, your father maintained a neutral attitude in the struggle for the throne back then, so he lost the new emperor's favor. Since then, the family declined and was exiled to Yangzhou. Although our lives were saved, it was hard for Sister Molly to be away from home for more than 10 years. Her voice trailed off as if speaking to me, yet also sinking into distant memories. The carriage moved very fast. The lady saw me feeling a bit dizzy, so she immediately hugged me and gave me a slice of ginger to hold in my mouth. Fortunately, the distance was not far, and we soon arrived at the Chen manor. The Duke's estate was majestic and magnificent to the extent I could never have imagined. In the manor, there were pavilions and towers with exquisite carvings, flower gardens, fish ponds, singing birds, fragrant grass. Everything was there. The servants in the manor came out one after another to welcome us, respectfully washing the dust off for the lady and me. My courtyard was arranged in the west, elegant and quiet. Madame Cheng originally intended to have 3 maids serve me, but I felt strange and was not used to strangers being close, so I only kept 1 clever person, and let the rest stand guard outside the courtyard. That maid's name was Su. Her appearance was dignified, her words and gestures were skillful and thorough. She took care of me like a sister caring for a younger sister, only this person had a cold temperament, speaking little and smiling little. In the first days in the capital city, I was unfamiliar with the place and people, missed home and missed grandmother, so I often secretly shed tears at night. Su handed me a handkerchief. I choked out my thanks. She only replied softly, "Miss is too polite, that is the duty of a servant." She stood a polite but distant distance from me. Perhaps that was the rule of noble families. I gradually got used to it, but whenever there was delicious food, I saved a portion for Su. Because grandmother once taught that being human requires knowing how to share. Doing good deeds will reap good fruits. I did not expect any result, I just wanted her to taste some sweetness too. After staying at the Chen manor for more than half a month, Leo finally returned from outside. Hearing that he would be home in just a few days, I unconsciously felt nervous. That person was my future husband, the person I would live with for the rest of my life. I asked Su, "What does the young master like best?" "I want to prepare some small things, just to leave an impression at the first meeting." Su's cleaning motion paused for a moment, then she replied, "I do not know much either." I was slightly disappointed. As the day Leo returned to the manor approached, Madame Cheng had people bring several sets of clothes from Cloud Pavilion. The designs were magnificent and fresh, making my ordinary appearance add a bit of charm. I carefully thanked her, tried them on, and then folded them neatly, not daring to dirty them at all. Unexpectedly, the night before the young master returned, my clothes were bitten by rats in several places, and my face broke out in red rashes, because I accidentally ate food containing peach juice. Indeed, everything was unfavorable. The lady knew about it and went to the courtyard to comfort me as I was hiding in the room. I choked out an apology. "Madam, I am truly sorry. I cannot do anything right. Not only did I dirty the clothes you gave, but I also caused you to invite a doctor." The lady smiled gently. "Silly child, it is okay. You are my future daughter-in-law. A few sets of clothes are nothing. There will be more in the future." Saying that, she stroked my hair, her eyes full of love. "Chen Manor is your home. Do not think of yourself as an outsider." In that comfort, the grievance in my heart gradually melted away. Only that evening, Su in my room was transferred to serve in the ladies' courtyard. The lady said she would choose another suitable person for me. I was fond of Su, but I dared not say anything more. When I met young Master Leo, the red spots on my face had not yet faded, so I could only use a thin layer of silk to cover half of my face. He was just 20 years old. When I entered from the door, I saw him wearing a green outfit, his figure like a green pine on the mountain, handsome and steady. In the elegance of a scholar, there was a hidden bit of street-smart freedom. Leo finished paying respects to Madame Cheng. His eyes inadvertently glanced over me, and he paused slightly. "Mother, who is this?" I hurriedly stood up to bow, but the lady gently pulled me back and smiled. "This is the daughter of the Fang family in Yangjo. She and her grandmother are close friends of mine, so we have decided on the marriage for you and her." Leo's face darkened slightly, but he still maintained etiquette, retracting his displeasure and bowing slightly. "So it is the sister from the Feng family. I have been traveling outside for the past half-month, and did not know you had arrived at the manor, which is truly rude. If you want to go out to play or eat somewhere, just tell me, and I will try to arrange it." I hurriedly waved my hand. "Brother Leo is too polite." While my words were unfinished, someone walked in from outside the door. Su brought a tray of tea forward. Leo's eyes stopped for a moment. As soon as he met her gaze, both of them immediately changed their expressions. The atmosphere in the room suddenly became silent. Madame Cheng softly told Su to put down the tea and withdraw. Su hurriedly obeyed, but when she lowered her head to leave, the corners of her eyes were wet. Leo recovered his naturalness. He just bowed and said, "I still have work to handle and cannot receive guests, so I ask to be excused first." Although Madame Cheng was dissatisfied, she still nodded in agreement. I stared blankly at his back disappearing into the corridor. No matter how stupid I was, I understood that there was a private story between him and Su. Thinking of that, a thin layer of fog suddenly covered my heart. My parents in the past had deep affection. My mother carried me and suffered pain, almost losing her life. Since then, my father did not take a concubine, and I was the only child. Uncle Nathan's family was usually strict, but my aunt and uncle were also a harmonious couple. Even someone like Uncle Nathan, who frowned all day, had learned how to choose rouge to match my aunt's skin tone. Therefore, I did not understand how one should live if married to someone who did not love them. I did not like him, but the thought of being detested by someone made me more uncomfortable than the matter of dirty clothes. Madame Cheng saw me distracted and thought the rash on my face made my spirit weak, so she told me to go back and rest early. I lowered my head and hurriedly withdrew, fearing that if I was a step slower, tears would fall. Outside, the sun was bright and golden. Yangjo had misty rain all year round, while the capital city had a sky clear as jade, with golden sunshine spreading everywhere. The air was so warm, yet I did not belong to this place. Amidst the brilliant sunlight, I only remembered the gloomy clouds at home, remembered the gentle damp coldness of Yangzhou, and remembered my sickly grandmother, not knowing how she was now. Grandmother worried about me. This marriage was also arranged secretly by her, hidden from Uncle Nathan. Now I could not withdraw from the marriage. Doing so would only make her more troubled. So even if Leo did not like me, even if he had someone in his heart, I could only obey. Whether I liked it or not, perhaps it was no longer important. As long as grandmother was at peace, that was enough. Thinking of this, my heart gradually became calm, and my tears stopped falling. But when I was silent, a soft crying sound rang out nearby. I followed that sound and found it. I saw Sue squatting down under the rockery by the lake, covering her face with both hands and sobbing incessantly. I walked over and handed her a handkerchief, whispering, "I'm sorry." I remembered clearly what the lady once said to grandmother, the maid whose marriage I snatched away was Sue. You and Leo had affection, and I was the intruder. I feel extremely guilty. Sue saw me and frantically stood up, but she was too hasty and slipped. I did not think and immediately grabbed her hand. The result was that both of us fell to the ground. She looked at me blankly, then looked at the handkerchief still in my hand that I had not had time to give, and her tears flowed even more torrentially. Why did you have to save me? Wouldn't it have been better to let me fall into the water? I was stunned and did not know how to reply. Saving people, isn't it natural? She choked up and finally accepted the handkerchief to wipe her tears dry. This was the first time I saw Sue like this. No longer the dignified appearance of usual days, but a girl with a childish temperament, reckless and frank. Humans naturally have many sides like that. Both appearances were her. Sue wiped her tears clean, sat down beside me, and asked softly, "Do you not hate me?" I shook my head. "I like you very much. Every time I shared delicious food with you, there was an extra small item in my room secretly gifted back by you." I still thought she did not hate me either, even though I had stolen her fate. She whispered, "If you knew what I had done, you would surely hate me." "I know," I replied. She looked at me in surprise. "My clothes were bitten by rats, my face had an allergy. I know it was all done by you. I took your marriage first, so it is fair for you to take revenge on me. We can consider it even, but I hope you do not do it like that in the future." I spoke very seriously. "If you repeat it, I am afraid I will get really angry and start to hate you." Sue pursed her lips. "If not for you, I would have had hope to marry the young master. The lady once promised marriage for me and him." "Do you really like the young master?" I asked her. She was stunned, then slowly replied, "I have never thought carefully about it." "Does the young master like you very much?" Sue was stunned again, then shook her head, her eyes gradually becoming gloomy. I was surprised. I originally thought they were lovers, with affection coming from both sides. Our status is not worthy, not well matched. I am just a maid but had delusions of marrying the duke's son. I was just greedy for the young master's wealth and glory. Sue tightened the handkerchief in her hand. I was silent. A memory from the past suddenly appeared in my mind. When my mother was alive, she once wanted to transfer a maid to someone else, because that maid wanted to be my father's concubine. Uncle Nathan knew about it, and advised my father to send that maid directly to the brothel to punish her crime of not keeping her duty. My parents did not listen to Uncle Nathan. They just hugged me and asked, "Does second brother feel what a person's duty is?" Uncle Nathan sneered and glanced sideways at that maid. Men must establish a career, women must keep the inner court peaceful, and maids naturally must serve their masters. Everyone keeps their proper duty, only then will the world not be in chaos. Second brother is right, but also too one-sided. Mother smiled softly, her voice gentle but reasonable. Men establishing a career can enjoy glory and wealth, while for women, if they want to see the prosperity in the world, the only way is precisely not to follow duty. Uncle Nathan was stunned, frowned, and mocked. "Does sister-in-law agree with that maid's behavior? If so, why give her to someone else? Just let eldest brother take her as a concubine." Mother smiled and said, "Second brother is joking. Wanting to advance is not wrong, but one should not harm others." That maid wanting to climb into the master's bed annoyed me, which was harming me. But although she was wrong, she did not deserve to be sent to that man-eating brothel. I sent her to a shop in the east of the city to work for someone, that is enough. I sat in my mother's lap quietly listening. Mother looked down at me and said, "Joy, you must also remember that the principles of the world are fundamentally vague. You cannot completely follow them, nor can you completely resist them. You must think carefully about the words right and wrong, not just for yourself, but even more so for others." I always remembered those words. I thought Sue must be like that maid back then. I recounted the words my mother once said to her. Sue stood silent, unable to say a word. "I cannot judge whether your wanting to marry the young master was right or wrong," But you should not have dirtied my clothes and given me food containing peach juice causing my allergy. I spoke each word slowly and clearly. Su was stunned, hesitated, and said, I am truly sorry. I was just too impatient. I was afraid the young master would like you. Afraid I really had no chance left. I really had no other way. Her voice grew smaller, her head bowed low. Then suddenly she turned and ran away. I called after her, but she did not look back. Actually, I wanted to say it was fine, just not doing it next time was enough. As for my handkerchief, grandmother bought it for me. I cherished it very much. She should have returned it before leaving. I sighed, feeling a vague sense of resentment in my heart, thinking I would find a way to get it back later. Suddenly, a soft chuckle rang out from behind, clear as jade striking against jade. I turned around and saw Leo stepping out from behind the rockery, his palms open and his expression innocent. I apologize, I did not mean to eavesdrop. The wind by the lake stirred slightly, carrying the faint scent of water weeds. When our eyes met, the scent of the water weeds seemed to intensify, weaving through my rapid, chaotic breathing. I was still unaccustomed to the fact that I had a fiancé. What should I say to him? Should I greet him? Should I smile naturally or pretend to be shy and look at him? It was truly awkward. Before I could figure it out, Leo acted first. Eavesdropping was wrong. Consider this my atonement. I will treat your allergy for you. He stepped closer and gently pulled down the veil covering my face. I was stunned, only able to stare blankly as he took out a box of ointment and carefully applied it to my face. It felt cold yet slightly stinging. Once finished, he placed the box in my hand. Apply this once a day. Take an amount the size of a coin and spread it evenly on your face. Saying that, he sat down on a large rock by the lake, rolled up his sleeves, and swept a spot clean. Since it is before dinner, we might as well sit and chat for a while. I regained my composure, nodded slightly, and sat down beside him. The carp in the lake swam in schools, occasionally releasing small bubbles. Sigh, how troublesome! Leo exclaimed. It was hard enough to refuse the marriage with Su, and now it is your turn. My fingers unconsciously twisted the hem of my clothes, drawing small circles. Do you really want to marry me? He turned his head and asked. His eyes were as bright as stars, making me dare not look straight at him, so I turned my head away. It was grandmother who told me to marry here. Tisk. Parents' orders again. Leo scratched his head. But it is normal, the fault lies with this feudal society, not with you guys. I understood very little of what he said. Little sister, I am speaking the truth to you, do not marry me. I am a pit of fire, you will regret it, Leo said sincerely. I did not understand why he humbled himself like that. To be clear, Leo's appearance was handsome, his family background was illustrious, and his personality was not bad. At least right now he worried about my allergy, and applied medicine for me. Compared to marrying the son of that admiral, this was clearly much better. My parents died early, and Uncle Nathan forced me to marry the son of the admiral in the army. He is a degenerate, compared to him. Marrying you is still a bit better. So that is how it is. Leo threw a pebble into the lake. How pitiful. The fish in the lake hurriedly scattered, ripples spreading in circles. Alright then, you just stay in the Chen manor. Even if I do not necessarily marry you, the Chen family will raise you. After all, there are no feelings between us, and I have no future either. Why don't I adopt you as a sister of the Chen family and protect you? He spoke as if he had found a perfect solution, but I shook my head in panic. How can that be? The Fang family still has relatives. If I am not the daughter-in-law of the Chen family, how can I stay? Without a proper title, my presence would be unjustified. It would truly harm the Fang family's reputation. Leo sighed. Why the need for a proper title? The current emperor is a usurper who forced the previous king to abdicate. Even he did not keep etiquette, let alone proper titles, yet you people adhere to it so strictly. His words terrified me. It was no different from high treason. I hurriedly covered his mouth. You are crazy. If others hear this, you will lose your head. Leo chuckled. Will little sister report me? Of course not, but words like that must absolutely not be spoken again. Haha, I won't talk nonsense in the future, so as not to scare the little girl. He rubbed my head, and I froze. I had reached the age of marriage. That action was indeed abrupt. But thinking back, he was my fiancé, so it could not be considered rude. Seeing my face turn red, Leo seemed to realize it too and lowered his head. Oh God, I am truly sorry. It is just because you are only 15, I still thought of you as a child, so I unintentionally acted out of line. Fearing the apology was not sincere enough, he even promised to buy pastries from Cloud Pavilion to make amends. I nodded blankly. but the redness on my cheeks refused to fade. At dinner time, Madame Chen invited me to join them. On the table, sure enough, there was green bamboo cake from Cloud Pavilion. Leo gently pushed the plate toward me. It was a dish I often ate in Yangjo. Seeing that the two of us seemed close, the lady felt even happier. I see you two are truly a good match. Let's choose a day to get married. Madame Cheng's sentence almost made Leo choke on his porridge. Mother, you know I will not agree. He patted his chest while refusing. Joy is such a good girl. In what way is she not worthy of you? Madame Cheng's face suddenly darkened. Good is good, but what does that have to do with getting married? Leo retorted, I do not care. You do not take the exams, I can tolerate that, but if you do not marry a wife, I have no face left to face the world. Leo closed his eyes helplessly. It was these words again. Joy was entrusted to me by Sister Molly. I must give the child a fair outcome. If you do not agree, I will not spend another penny on your medical studies or travels in the future. Madame Cheng smashed her bowl down, shattering it. Amidst the sound of breaking porcelain, Leo finally panicked. Mother, you know clearly what the consequences of being my wife are. Why do you still push little sister into a pit of fire? Leo stood up. The bowl of porridge he hadn't finished also tipped over. Madame Cheng choked up. Being your wife means being my daughter-in-law. Once Joy enters the Chen family, she will no longer be oppressed by her uncle, and no one will dare to bully her anymore. I will protect her and let her live peacefully for this entire life. Madame Cheng looked at Leo, tears rolling down. Son, let's not think too far ahead, okay? After all, you should leave a little hope for your mother. In this Chen manor, besides you, there is no one left by my side. That tear was like a knife carving deep into Leo's heart. The room sank into a heavy silence. I stood to the side, weighed down by the atmosphere, choking and unable to speak. For grandmother, for the lady, and for myself. Leo lowered his head. I understand. I will marry her. The porridge and porcelain shards on the floor reflected the light of the oil lamp, model cold, dazzling yet bright. Madame Cheng wiped her tears, restoring her usual gentleness. Good, this is my good son. Tomorrow we will choose an auspicious day. I did not hear the rest clearly. In my eyes there was only Leo. He stared blankly out the window, looking both tired and empty. But outside the window, there was only moonlight, nothing else. Our wedding was held grandly and was extremely lively. All the influential figures in the capital city came. The red veil on my head swayed slightly, my vision shifting with each step of the sedan chair from the street into the hall. Beneath the layers of red cloth, my breathing gradually became stifled. Outside, the sound of music and toasts continued endlessly, intermingled with Leo's gentle voice and Madame Cheng's satisfied laughter. All those sounds merged, flooding my ears, making my heart suddenly feel vague. So this was called getting married. So this was becoming someone's wife. I wanted to reach up and lift the veil, wanting to see myself. What would a newly married person look like? I really wanted to know. But then I stopped. Lifting the veil myself was not in accordance with the rules. Suddenly, the door opened softly, and Leo stepped in. He smelled faintly of wine, surely having entertained many guests. He held a small bamboo stick and gently lifted the red cloth from my head. The flickering light pierced through, revealing his handsome face. I was used to seeing that face, but at this moment, it made my heart skip a beat. I knew he originally did not want to marry, so my heart was anxious, thinking he would be cold or carry resentment. But no, Leo took out a box of green bamboo cakes from Cloud Pavilion from his chest and placed it in my hand. You must be hungry, eat something. That was the first sentence he said to me on our wedding night. Hearing that, my heart suddenly became quiet again. A warm feeling spread through my chest, making me almost shed tears. The light tea scent blended with the sweetness of red bean paste melting on the tip of my tongue. I ate until crumbs stuck to the corner of my mouth. He laughed softly and used his index finger to help me wipe away the crumbs. You are truly silly, the room is so stuffy, you should have taken that veil off long ago. Right? I forgot he never followed etiquette or rules, so there was no need for me to constrain myself. The green bamboo cakes were soon eaten clean by me, eating until I choked. He handed me a porcelain cup. It must have been the nuptial cup for the two of us. I hesitated for a moment, then tilted my head to drink it all, but I was truly surprised because inside the cup was not wine but tea. Where is our wine? I asked softly. It was on the table. I had someone clear it away and replace it with tea. He smiled, pouring himself another cup. Little sister is only 15, still a child, drinking wine hurts the body. I retorted. I am not a child, tomorrow I am a bride. Hearing that, He spat out a mouthful of tea, coughing violently, and hurriedly waved his hands. Wait, do not speak carelessly. If this were a few hundred years later, I would be arrested for real. What bride? You and I are just in a purely marriage in name only. I tilted my head in confusion. What is a marriage in name only? It is a marriage just for outsiders to see, but nothing real actually happens. Leo replied. So what is the real thing? I asked further. Leo often said things I could not understand, but every time he would patiently explain. Only this time, his face turned red to the tips of his ears, truly as red as the setting sun burning the clouds. Did your family not teach you about this matter? He asked me. No, they taught nothing and just let me get married. I thought for a moment and then remembered, actually, they did teach. So I leaned forward, tilting slightly to the side, and placed a light kiss on his cheek. At that moment, the rims of his ears turned bright red. Even the slight intoxication vanished. Little sister. He suddenly stood up, hurriedly retreating a few steps to keep a distance from me. They taught me that I must take the initiative to kiss my husband, and I do not need to interfere with the rest. Seeing his expression change, I felt a bit wronged. Clearly, those old maids had taught me exactly that. He was silent, his lips moving, then he turned around and took a blanket to spread on the floor. It is not exactly wrong, but it cannot be said to be right either. He stammered. Fine, consider it right. After all, we are already married, we will deal with other things later. I did not fully understand his meaning but still obediently nodded. He must have been tired after a day of receiving guests. I only saw him pull the blanket over his head, turning his back to me, not saying another word. I dazedly lay down, pulling the blanket over myself, his voice still echoing in my head. The person who was laughing and joking just a moment ago was now as silent as a stone. I did not understand why I felt my heart empty, and soon sleepiness took over. I fell asleep without having time to think more about his strange behavior. My days at the Chen family were idle to the point of boredom. Leo spent all day in the study researching his ancestors' medical books. Affairs in the inner court were managed by Madame Cheng, so I did not need to worry. Therefore, I only knew how to sit and write letters to send back to grandmother. From Yangjo to the capital city was very far. Although I wrote letters regularly, replies were slow, making me constantly anxious. One day, Leo walked out of the study, saw me sitting staring blankly at a flock of pigeons flying in the sky, and laughed. If you really have nothing to do, you can go to the mountain in the eastern outskirts for a walk. Lately, the flowers on the mountain are blooming, and the scenery is very beautiful. Sounds good. I nodded and went to the eastern outskirts alone. Madame Cheng originally did not like me going out to play. She believed women should obediently stay in their boudoirs and not show their faces randomly. That was the rule. And she was someone who valued rules very much, so I dared not bring a maid along, fearing that if she found out she would be troubled. Fortunately, the mountain outside the city was not high. After climbing for a while, I reached the top. Up there, hundreds of flowers were blooming, bees and butterflies hovered around. It was truly a beautiful spring scene. I picked a few flowers to tuck into my waist sash, lingering for a long time before returning to the manor. When I returned, I saw Leo sitting in the courtyard, sipping tea while holding a brush to paint something. I walked closer and realized he was drawing a sprig of grass. Every stroke was lifelike. Seeing me arrive, he smiled. The flowers at your waist are not bad, but if you pin one behind your ear, I'm afraid you would be even more radiant. I immediately took a purple flower and pinned it behind my ear, tilting my head to ask, "Is this okay?" He laughed, his eyes curving like the crescent moon. That is right, incredibly beautiful, just like a spirit from the mountain valley who has just descended to the mortal world. That praise made my face flush red, my heart beating fast, not knowing how to respond. I hurriedly changed the subject. I see scholars usually like to draw plum, orchid, bamboo, and chrysanthemum. Why did you choose to draw grass? I asked curiously. He looked at the sprig of grass in his hand and spoke slowly. This is Scutellaria barbata. It can clear heat, aid digestion, and strengthen the spleen. The medical books of this era are incomplete. I want to compile a book myself clarifying the names and uses of each type of herb, just like Li Shizhen's Compendium of Materia Medica. Wu is Li Shizhen. My idol, he does not belong to this world. I understood little of his words, but I understood one thing. He truly wanted to write a medical book for the people. Truly admirable. I exclaimed sincerely. His eyes lit up. Do you really think so? I thought you would also advise me like others, to study classics, take exams, and pursue fame and wealth. Of course, If you can create a record of medicinal herbs, how many doctors will be able to save people thanks to it? Isn't that a great merit? The path of imperial examinations was already crowded with thousands of scholars. It did not lack one person like him. But if he truly compiled that medical book, the blessing left for the world would be immense. Leo was overjoyed, like a small puppy being petted, and rushed over to hug me tightly. You are so right. His eyes sparkled, resembling a myriad of brilliant stars. That sudden embrace made my heart pound, seemingly in rhythm with the starlight in his eyes, both brilliant and trembling. Soon, he suddenly realized his action was too intimate, so he immediately let me go, his face flushing red, awkwardly intending to apologize, but before he could speak, a cry rang out from outside the courtyard. Young master! He and I turned around together. We saw Sue running over, kneeling heavily on the ground, tears streaming down her face. Young master, my mother is having a difficult birth and hemorrhaging. The doctors outside all say it is hopeless. I really have no other way. I can only come to beg you for a life-saving formula. Leo immediately jumped up. Where is your mother? Lead me to see how she is immediately. Sue trembled, hesitating. Our status is humble, let alone it being a matter of a woman giving birth. How dare we let the young master lower himself to come? The young master's medical skills are superb, just giving me a formula is enough. Leo shouted in anger. Now is the time to save a person, yet you still talk about high and low status. Before life and death, everyone is equal. Save your breath and tell me where she is immediately. Sue sobbed and finally revealed the location. As soon as Leo heard it, he turned and ran, turning back at the door to say to me, Joy, go get my medicine chest. When I ran there hugging the medicine chest, I saw the midwife carrying a basin of blood out. The child had been born, but the tragic screams of Sue's mother still lingered in my ears, chilling my spine. Before the door, the situation was extremely chaotic. Sue's father spread his arms to block Leo from entering. Young Master Chen, you are a man, you cannot go in. At this moment, Leo wanted to hit him. Your wife is about to lose her life, and you still worry about me being a man. She gave birth to a useless daughter again. If you go in, what if you offend the child, giving Guan Yin? If the next pregnancy is a girl again, won't you cause us to have no descendants? Do you value human life or a son? Are you still playing these superstitious feudal games with me? Leo's punch landed straight on the man's face, making him stumble and fall to the ground. Sue hugged her face and sobbed beside him. The two little girls also cried along. Her mother was about to succumb, yet Sue still hesitated, standing there, not knowing whether to let him in or not. Leo did not bother to say more, pushed her aside, and was about to rush in when her father hugged his leg tightly. Young Master Chen, I do not have a son. I fear it will be hard to lift my face to look at the ancestors. I can only offend you. Crying, screaming, and begging intertwined in chaos, the scene so tragic it was suffocating. Amidst those sounds, there was only the weak groan of the laboring woman gradually fading away. I bit my lip tightly, my heart pounding. Then I gripped the medicine chest in my hand and rushed straight into the room. Young Master Chen, you wait outside, let me do it. Leo looked at me, a flash of determination in his eyes, then nodded. Okay, now open the medicine chest, take the acupuncture needle and heat it over the fire. I followed every word of his instructions, my hands shaking but not daring to delay. When the silver needle pierced the acupoint as he spoke, the woman who had been gasping for breath softly opened her eyes, her lips moving. Sue immediately brought a bowl of strengthening soup just brewed, poured it into her mother's mouth, and used mugwort to warm her belly to circulate energy. After a long while, the laboring woman finally escaped the gates of hell. Sue held her mother's hand and sobbed, Mother, fortunately you are safe. The woman also shed tears, but the first words she uttered stunned me. The child is a boy, right? Sue's face suddenly changed, hesitatingly replying. It is a little sister. Is it a daughter again? The mother burst into tears, her voice trembling. Clearly the doctor said it was a boy. Why is it a girl? How can I explain this to your father? Hearing this, the fatigue in me suddenly turned into a flame of anger. You just escaped death. Do you still care about failing someone? My mother only gave birth to me alone. Didn't she still overcome all gossip and live harmoniously with my father? In this world, are there really so many things about being worthy or not? Women giving birth is already extreme suffering. Why must you torment yourself like this? But clearly, Sue's mother did not think like me. She still cried, her chest heaving incessantly. I felt tired in my heart, so I resentfully wiped the acupuncture needles clean, put the medicine chest back on my back, and walked out of the room. Outside, Leo was waiting with his heart burning like fire. Hearing me say I had saved the person, he finally let out a long breath, his eyes softening. He used his sleeve to gently wipe the sweat from my forehead. It has been hard on you. Knowing his wife was safe, the string in Su's father's heart that had been taut all day finally snapped. He slumped to the ground, still trying to kowtow in thanks. Thank you, young master, young mistress. Leo helped him up and sighed softly. Nuff, go in and see your wife. Clearly, my wife had to suffer. Although this time it is a girl again, next time it will definitely be a boy. Hearing him say each sentence, I only saw darkness before my eyes, then darkness again. Finally, I really could not stand it anymore. I flicked my sleeves and left. Leo instructed a few things about recuperation and then hurriedly chased after me. Seeing my face darken, he laughed. We saved the person. Don't be angry anymore. I'll take you to the biggest restaurant nearby to eat something delicious. Before I could reply, he grabbed my hand and pulled me through the crowd. I was dragged along, my steps gradually falling into the rhythm of his. Sunset fell, the sky dyed a vague purple hue. Leo squeezed my hand tight, as if wanting to pull me out of my fatigue and sadness. The medicine chest swayed with the rhythm of his steps in the twilight. He turned back, his eyes shining. Joy, you are a little spirit, you should smile more, that way you are beautiful. When we returned to the Chen manor, it was very late. The two of us sneaked in through the small door in the corner of the backyard. The sky was full of stars, the light like falling frost. Leo asked me softly, do you want to learn medicine with me? I was stunned and shook my head instinctively. I am very stupid. Leo smiled faintly. Why must you look down on yourself? You are so smart. If you are willing, from tomorrow just follow me. I will be your master, no tuition fee. My heart fluttered slightly. Since childhood, I learned music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, but only superficially. Needlework and housekeeping were not proficient, so I always thought I was incompetent. Yet he said I was smart. People often say heaven births us for a use. Perhaps I really had a destiny with medicine. Moreover, following him to learn medicine, I could stay by his side longer. I liked being with him. He was like a small sun, radiant and warm, always full of vitality. Seeing me nod, he immediately held out his hand, eyes smiling into slits. Let's pinky swear. Tomorrow morning when the rooster crows 3 times, I will come to find you. You cannot break your word. Pinky swear. Leo always called me a child, yet now he was the one acting most childish. I couldn't help but laugh, and then extended my little finger to hook onto his. Under the moonlight, 2 shadows quietly merged. When I returned to my room, the lamp had been lit. Su stood outside the door. Perhaps she had just finished caring for her mother, and fatigue still lingered on her face. Seeing me, her eyes lit up, and she ran to welcome the young mistress. In her hand, she held a package of pastries wrapped in oil paper, the style of Cloud Pavilion. I truly thank you for today. I bought green bamboo cakes to repay you. Items from Cloud Pavilion were not cheap. I feared these 2 pieces of cake had cost her an entire month's wages. I hurriedly accepted it, not bearing to hurt her feelings. Under the lamplight, I broke the cake in half and handed her a portion, saying, let's eat together. Just like in the past, whenever there was delicious food, she and I would share it equally. Su took a bite of the cake, chewed for a very long time, and then whispered, I am truly sorry. For dirtying your clothes and causing your allergy. I am truly sorry, Su whispered once more. I smiled and said, I do not remember that anymore. Su paused for a moment, then burst into laughter along with me. The oil lamp flickered between us, casting a golden light on both our faces. Even the air felt unusually warm. Leo was indeed a man of his word. He said he would call me when the rooster crowed 3 times, and although the sky had not yet brightened, he truly came to wake me up. Although he and I were married, he used the excuse of researching herbs to avoid Madame Cheng's expectation of an heir. Except for the 1st and the 15th of every month when he came to my room. Though he still slept in a separate bed, he stayed in the study the rest of the time. Early that morning he dragged me, still groggy with sleep, to the study. I was so sleepy I could barely open my eyes, but he had already prepared a basin of water and used a wet towel to wipe my face. The water was biting cold, making me instantly wide awake. Just like that, over half a month, I gradually learned the habit of waking up early, feeling refreshed to read medical books and identify herbs with him. Leo taught me about meridians, acupoints, and the methods of observation, listening, questioning, and pulse taking. At first, I was very interested, But after studying for a short while, my laziness resurfaced. I studied the herbs over and over but could not remember them, eventually forgetting 7 or 8 parts out of 10. Leo remained incredibly patient. He said I entered the manor at 15, and although a year had passed, I was still essentially 15, an age for play, so not remembering was normal. Afterward, he compiled the names of various herbs into a folk song and taught me to chant it every day. The Song of 100 Herbs in spring, pick dandelions to clear heat and disperse fire. In summer, pick honeysuckle to detoxify and remove heat rash. In autumn, harvest wild chrysanthemums to brighten the eyes and calm the liver. In winter, dig for licorice root to harmonize 100 warm medicines. 100 herbs are treasures. Ancestors passed down wisdom. Treating illness requires persistence. Staying healthy throughout the 4 seasons. Indeed, it was extremely easy to remember. Looking at Leo's appearance after he finished writing, looking self-satisfied and saying, "I am truly a genius," I could not help but burst into laughter. Amidst the noise and laughter, I also memorized that song, and subsequently read more medical books and identified many more herbs, enough to fill several baskets. Thus, in that process, another year passed, and I grew a little taller. I wondered if grandmother would be happy if she heard the news. I rested my chin on my hand, watching a flock of white pigeons circling and then landing on the horizon. The letters sent home became fewer. Perhaps grandmother did not feel my longing in every line, so I wrote even more diligently. I told her that now I knew how to take pulses and even perform acupuncture. Grandmother would definitely be proud that her little granddaughter now had a skill in her hands. Seeing me resting my chin in a daze, Leo said, "Wait a few more days until I am free. I will take you back to visit your home." I turned my head in surprise, seeing the serious look on his face, and immediately nodded happily. When Madame Cheng heard the news, she did not object. She even gave us extra silver, instructing me not to let myself suffer on the journey. It was only a pity that General Cynthia, the beloved daughter of the noble consort in the palace, was about to lead the army out to war. Madame Cheng was invited to help arrange the farewell banquet, so she could not accompany Leo and me. But with him by my side, my seasickness improved significantly. In March, amidst the misty flowers of the mortal world, I traveled toward Yangjo. Leo had been to this place before, but back then it was only to find famous doctors and medicinal herbs. He had never truly admired the scenery of Yangjo. This time, he could not help but exclaim at the richness and crowds of this land, prosperous and brilliant as brocade. He was still greedily gazing at the row of shop signs on the street when I hurriedly dragged him to the Fang family home. Uncle Nathan had not yet quelled his anger over my marriage. With a gloomy face, he led me straight into grandmother's courtyard. On the way, I asked about my aunt and cousin. Uncle Nathan only replied indifferently, "They are all well, only that in the army there is no one to support him, so your cousin suffers quite a bit." I was choked with silence, my 10 fingers twisting inside my sleeves, not knowing what to say. Leo knew my family's situation clearly. Hearing that, he could not help but pull me aside and say to Uncle Nathan, "Men establishing a career, who does not suffer? If one's ability is not enough, then just suffer a bit more, suffer to the end, and naturally, one will stand firm in the army." Uncle Nathan was silenced by those words, his face turning green then red, and finally, he only said coldly, "This old man still has matters to attend to. I will take my leave first." Watching his back as he waved his hand and left, I could not help but curl the corners of my lips. Leo tapped his finger lightly on my forehead. "Feeling better now?" I nodded. Indeed, I felt much more relieved. When I met grandmother, my mood would surely be even better. I brought her some snacks from the old alley in the capital city. She would definitely like them. Full of anticipation, I pushed open the door to grandmother's courtyard. The willows outside the porch swayed in the wind, only there was no green left. Grandmother sat quietly on a chair. The gentle sunlight covered her wrinkled face, casting a pale golden light, making grandmother look like a gilded statue, quiet and benevolent. I walked over. After 2 years of separation, the longing rose into a sour bitterness in my chest, and tears fell unconsciously. "Grandmother, little joy has returned." I knelt down beside her, resting my head on her knees. Grandmother slowly opened her eyes. They were already cloudy, but as soon as she saw me, a spark of light flashed within that misty blur. She tried to prop herself up, seeming to have gained a little more strength. "Little Joy is back. Taking the boat from the capital city. Were you seasick?" Her voice was hoarse and murky, like an old wooden door that had not been oiled for a long time. I could not hold it back. Tears fell one after another. Grandmother smiled kindly, reaching out to wipe away my tears. Still crying just like in the past, how can grandmother be at ease? Leo stepped forward to pay his respects. A junior Leo greets grandmother. Grandmother looked at him for a long time, then her smile deepened. She took his hand and placed it in mine. A very good match, even better than your parents in the past. Saying that, grandmother coughed lightly a few times. Leo frowned slightly, placing his hand on her wrist to take her pulse. His face immediately darkened, hesitating, not knowing what to say. I understood and immediately grabbed her wrist myself. The pulse was trembling, rapid but weak, intermittent. That was a sign that the spleen energy was exhausted, and life could not last much longer. My breathing became rapid. Leo hurriedly supported me so I wouldn't fall. Grandmother held my hand tightly, gently rubbing it. Little Joy knows medicine now too. My little Joy is getting more and more capable. Her eyes were filled with pride. When you were small, you cleverly climbed trees to pick fruit for grandmother to eat. When your father died, you cried until you fainted, yet you still hugged grandmother, coaxing grandmother not to cry lest I ruin my eyes, saying you would take care of grandmother for a lifetime. Now you have even learned medicine. It is only a pity that I am old. I fear I will not see the day you save people everywhere. She coughed a few times, speaking more and more, and then from those cloudy eyes, a line of tears flowed out. That tear fell onto the back of my hand, mixing with the warmth of her palm, burning like fire. I could not help but throw myself into her arms. In the past, when Uncle Nathan criticized me for being a girl, I also used to hide in her arms and cry. Grandmother, just as before, gently patted my back, rhythm by rhythm. Grandmother, I will cure your illness. I will make you live for 100 years. I panic-strickenly spoke those naive words that could not be believed. She only laughed louder, her voice hoarse but benevolent. All right, my little Joy can cure my illness. As long as little Joy is peaceful and happy, grandmother will live to be 100 years old. Leo turned his head away, unable to bear watching any longer. In Yangjo, I woke up earlier than before. As soon as I opened my eyes, I started brewing medicine for my grandmother. Leo knew it was useless but still silently stayed by my side. Whether going up the mountain to pick herbs or going down to the kitchen to cook, he did not rest. Grandmother looked at us and smiled kindly. This is good. Our Fang family has always had good karma. I felt a stinging sensation in my nose, feeding medicine to grandmother while trying to prevent tears from falling. The medicine was bitter, so I bought the sweetest preserved plums from the market. The money was given by Uncle Nathan. After knowing grandmother's illness was terminal, he furiously went to find the old doctor to demand an explanation. But the doctor said it was grandmother who ordered it to be hidden, fearing that her little granddaughter, newly married, staying in Yangjo and not returning to the capital city would be against the rules, against women's conduct, again the rules. Upon hearing this, Uncle Nathan just stood frozen, then stood outside the door looking at grandmother for a long time before saying to me in a low voice, "Take good care of your grandmother. Whatever she wants, do it. If the money is not enough, come find me." Grandmother's concern was well founded. I truly did not want to return to the capital city. At first, she tried to persuade me, but after hearing Leo say he had business to handle here and would not leave, she finally felt at ease. All her life, she had always worried for me. I did not know if it was thanks to the medicine or because I was by her side making her happy, but indeed, her complexion looked better than before. Spring breeze spread throughout Yangzhou. The dry willow branches in the courtyard sprouted fresh green buds. Grandmother ate the preserved plums and praised them as delicious, so Leo immediately ran out to buy more. In the courtyard, only she and I remained. She pulled me close and looked at me for a long time. On her wrist was still the floral cord I had once braided, only it was a pity that the cord could not keep her healthy and safe. My little Joy is truly good. You are good wherever you are. I was choked with emotion, the sorrow blocking my throat, unable to speak. Little Joy, push me for a walk around the Fang house. She looked toward the courtyard gate. The Fang household was formerly managed by my father, and after he passed, it was Uncle Nathan's turn to take over. Because the relationship between Uncle Nathan and grandmother was not good, she usually only stayed in her own courtyard and rarely went out. Today the weather was clear, suitable for a walk to look at this familiar place. I supported her as we walked. Along the way, she told stories of the past, recounting how difficult it was when the Feng family was demoted to Yangzhou, and how thanks to friends in the capital city, they bought this house. She told of how my mother skillfully managed the household, leading the whole family through years of poverty, and of the deep affection she shared with my father. When my father passed away, she also left him. Little Joy, do not learn from your mother, you must live for yourself. No matter how deep the affection, do not entrust your entire life to another person. Being able to live is the most precious thing. I clenched my hands, trying to suppress my sorrow, and forced a smile. Granddaughter has remembered. The two of us slowly walked, and before long, we arrived at Uncle Nathan's courtyard. My aunt had gone to the temple to pray for grandmother, so only Uncle Nathan was in the house. Grandmother called out loudly, "Nathan Fang, mother is here to visit you." Uncle Nathan walked out of the room, his steps slightly unsteady. Seeing her, his lips trembled, and he only let out a soft Grandmother waved her hand. "Nathan, for these past years, the Feng family has relied on you to shoulder the burden. It has been hard on you." Uncle Nathan bowed his head and replied softly, "It was not hard." Grandmother smiled, took a letter from her bosom, and handed it to him. "That boy Vincent has a soft personality. I originally did not want him to join the army, but since it was the will of you and your wife, let him go and try. When your father was the imperial censor, he knew Jiang Qin, the vice minister of war. Tell Vincent to take this letter to meet him. His path might be a little smoother in the future." Uncle Nathan was stunned. Why did mother not give this earlier? Grandmother sighed softly. Going to the battlefield is not just about establishing merit, one must also be willing to sacrifice one's life for the people. I was afraid he could not handle it. Uncle Nathan remained silent for a while, then took the letter. The Fang family must have someone rise up. Since the family foundation failed in the hands of eldest brother, the descendants must rebuild it. Grandmother was silent for a long time, then said, "Nathan, lower your head." Uncle Nathan was bewildered, but eventually lowered his head. Grandmother reached out to touch his face, then plucked a white hair from his head. "At this age, you should not have white hair." Uncle Nathan looked at the hair, 100 feelings in his heart. "My Nathan, mother and you were often at odds." Thinking back now, I should also say an apology. There were some matters where mother let you suffer a loss. I apologize to you. What are you saying? I have already forgotten those things. Uncle Nathan's eyes turned red, and he turned his head away. Grandmother put the strand of hair into her sleeve and gently patted my hand. "Little Joy, help grandmother back. Grandmother is a bit tired." Uncle Nathan seemed to have more to say, but his throat choked up, and he only raised a hoarse voice. "Mother, walk slowly, be careful of the steps." When Leo returned, the sky had already turned dark. He said the perplumbed plums in the old shop were sold out, so he ran all over Yangjo searching, finally buying a kind with a similar taste. Grandmother was very happy, taking out the plums to share a portion with me and him. After eating, he and I intended to go in and brew medicine for her, but she called out to stop us. "Just finished eating something sweet, and now you make me drink bitter medicine. I won't do it." She pretended to be angry, pulling both of us to sit down beside her to watch the moonlight in the courtyard. That night, the moon was not full, it was curved like a small boat. The crescent moon was also beautiful. The moon waxes and wanes, people meet in part, life is naturally difficult to be perfect. Fortunately, we can sit here together and admire the scenery, looking at the bright moonlight without being separated by thousands of miles, Leo said. Grandmother smiled. "That is right. As long as little Joy is by grandmother's side, everything is good." She turned to look at Leo. "Leo is also a good child, just like your mother back then, a person one can rely on." Leo understood her meaning and immediately replied, "Please rest assured, I will definitely take good care of Joy." "Of course I trust you." Grandmother nodded, her eyes turning to me. "But little Joy, you also cannot rely on others for your whole life." My nose stung, my voice choked. "Grandmother, I have medical skills. People often say that with a trade in hand, one will not worry about starving to death. As long as one does not starve, one can overcome anything that happens." At this moment, grandmother finally smiled, nodding in satisfaction. The three of us continued to talk casually. Words drifted back and forth in the gentle night wind. Unknown when the moon had risen high, the wind stopped blowing, and the willow branches drooped down, green strands swaying by the porch. Grandmother gradually closed her eyes, her head resting on my shoulder. She slept very peacefully, a smile still lingering on the corners of her lips. The last words she said were, "Little Joy, later if you miss grandmother, just look toward the moonlight." I looked up at the moon, not knowing where that crescent boat would carry grandmother, and where my tears and longing would follow that moonlight too. Grandmother's funeral was held simply. That was her wish while she was alive. Uncle Nathan became much more haggard from managing the funeral. He asked me, when Mother was on her deathbed, did she say anything? She spoke a lot, called the names of many people. I replied. Did she call my name? Yes. How many times? About 3 or 4 times. Then what about eldest brother? How many times? I hesitated and did not speak. Uncle Nathan understood, giving a dry laugh. In the end, she still favored eldest brother because he was sickly. Both parents poured all their attention onto him. The palace awarded a bow. I begged for 3 days but could not win against a single sentence of I like it from him. Yet he could not even pull the bowstring. Why not give it to me? Clearly, I was stronger than him. When the late emperor was critically ill, I advised him many times to follow the new emperor, but he would not listen. It led to the Fang family falling into this destitute state. Clearly, I am better than eldest brother. I even have a son to continue the lineage for this family. Why did Mother refuse to look at me a little more? I remained silent. Uncle Nathan turned his back to me, his shoulders trembling slightly, his back hunched over, his low voice echoing just enough in the desolate mourning hall. Grandmother lying in the coffin could no longer answer him. After the funeral, we should have arranged to return to the capital city, but Leo forbade it, saying, right now, my mind is not yet at peace, and I am prone to illness. If we leave in a rush, I fear I might leave half my life on the river. I gently stroked the jade bracelet grandmother left behind on my wrist, shaking my head and saying, I will be fine. It is okay. Yangjo was about to enter the rainy season. The damp air seeped into every crack, making even one's mood become sticky and wet. I am afraid I will drown in that dampness. I must leave this old place. That was grandmother's greatest wish. On the boat, Leo did not leave my side for half a step. He said my blood and Q were deficient and my body was weak, so he had to watch over me to feel at ease. But I did not feel that way. There was a moon in the sky, and a moon in the water. Grandmother was still by my side. Then I developed a fever. The fever was so high that I truly saw grandmother. She hugged me in her arms, calling me Little Joy, her voice as gentle as ever. But when I opened my eyes I only saw Leo using a wet towel to wipe my forehead, help bring down the heat. I am fine. I smiled. Yeah, he replied, his hand not stopping. You truly are a good doctor, I exclaimed. He tapped lightly on the bridge of my nose. If I truly considered you a patient, I would have kept you in Yangjo and waited until you were fully recovered before letting you leave. I tilted my head. Turns out you care for me so diligently. Is it not because I am your patient? His hand paused in mid-air. My head felt dizzy again, my consciousness gradually becoming blurry. Then why is it? His Adam's apple bobbed slightly, his eyes downcast. A drop of water from the wet towel dripped down, tracing along his palm and landing right in the middle of my forehead. The icy coldness spread throughout my body. In my delirium, I tried to hold on to the last bit of clarity and asked Leo, because I am your wife, right? I had forgotten how Leo answered me back then. When I opened my eyes again, I was already back at the Chen manor in the capital city. Seeing me awake, Sue was so happy she almost cried. The young master said you would wake up in a few days, so I dared not leave for half a step, always guarding by the bed. Are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? I shook my head, perhaps because I hadn't eaten for many days. My stomach had gotten used to being empty, so I no longer felt hungry. Where is Leo? I looked around but did not see him, and my heart suddenly felt an empty space. Hearing the news that your grandmother passed away, the madam was so grief-stricken she fell ill, and her old headache relapsed. The young master went to find medicine for the madam. Hearing that, I hurriedly wanted to get out of bed to visit, but Sue pressed on my shoulder to hold me back. It took so much effort for you to get a little better. You should rest and recuperate first. The madam has the young master taking care of her. If you go there, it would be no different from 2 sick people passing fatigue to each other. What she said was true, but it still made me feel pained. Before, I only knew Madame Cheng and my grandmother were friends, but I did not expect their affection to be so deep. Thinking of grandmother, my heart twisted in pain again. Sue brought a bowl of plain porridge. She said she had instructed the kitchen to have it ready, waiting for the moment I woke up to bring it immediately. Fearing that if I was too hungry, my stomach would hurt, I did not have much of an appetite, so I just ate 2 spoonfuls and put the bowl down. But Sue refused, forcing me to eat it all. Under her attentive gaze, I had to drink the whole bowl of porridge. My stomach felt a bit warm, and my body gradually regained some strength. Su put the bowl aside, hesitated for a moment, and then asked softly, "Did you and the young master have a fight?" I was stunned, not understanding why she asked that. "The young master carried you back from the boat," his face cold, showing no joy at all. "He instructed me with a few sentences, told me to take care of you, and then hurriedly left immediately. I have served him for so many years and have never seen him so gloomy. Could it be that I had done something to upset him? I thought back on the trip to Yangjo, but I could not remember where I had offended him." Su sighed softly, her voice lowering. "I originally bore the name Hope, for Brother Lin. The young master felt that name was not good, so he changed it to Su. Later, seeing that I knew how to conduct myself, the madam betrothed me to become the young master's wife." A large pie suddenly falling from the sky like this, I always felt there was something strange. Before I could think it through, the young master actively sought me out, saying he carried a sickness and would not live long, and did not want me to keep chastity for a dead person. He also said he originally did not like me, wanted to clarify everything, and advised me to choose another husband. But my family is large, and my parents hoped for a son, all costing money to raise. If I married him, even if I had to suffer widowhood, I could help my family overcome difficulties. The young master knew I still wanted to marry, so he did not make it difficult. He just silently left, bearing the madam's criticism alone so as not to implicate me. I stood frozen. Su continued, "Young mistress, I tell you these things to say that the young master is a rare good person in this world. How many men in this world put themselves in a woman's position to think, especially for lowly people like us? But the young master is different. Although he is strange and says unrealistic things, he is a person with a conscience and would absolutely not betray others. If you and he truly have a conflict, it is better to speak clearly soon. Surely it is just a misunderstanding." He said he had an illness and would not live long. I finally reacted. Su paused for a moment, then nodded, then shook her head again. "I am not sure either. Seeing him healthy like that, he does not look like a sick person. Other doctors have also examined him and said his body is normal, but he insists that he will not live much longer. Perhaps seeing that the ancestors of the Chen family all died young, he worries unnecessarily." At that moment, I suddenly remembered the sentence he once said in Rockery, "Do not marry me, I am a pit of fire. You will regret it." That voice seemed to linger in my ears, echoing louder and louder, compressing me, making my head spin and my whole body chaotic, my heart feeling as if squeezed by someone. Seeing my face turn pale, Su hurriedly supported me. "Do you feel uncomfortable again?" I breathed rapidly, trying to suppress the panic, and after a long while managed to force a smile. "I am fine. The weather in the capital city is strangely cold. Clearly it is already May, it should be warm, yet I cannot feel any warmth." I pulled the blanket up high and whispered to Su, "Get me a medical book, I want to read." In the days that followed, my body gradually recovered. I opened old medical books to read again. Before, I was half forced and half coaxed by Leo to read, so I read skimmingly just to finish. Now, with a mind as calm as still water, reading again, I found many places I had never understood before. During that time, I went to visit Madame Cheng. Her spirit was not good, and she shed tears as soon as she saw me. I did not get to see Sister Molly one last time. After all that talking, only that one sentence remains. Lu gently wiped her tears, comforted her with a few words, and waited until she lay down to rest before returning to the study. "He is avoiding me, I realized that very clearly." Su worried for me, whispering, "Currently, there are rumors in the capital city saying that it has been 2 years, and you still have no good news, meaning you are not favored by the young master. Some people even advised the madam to take a concubine for the young master. Young mistress, I do not know what happened between you two, but the young master is naturally soft-hearted. If you are willing to speak sweetly and coax him a few sentences, you will surely reconcile. Having a child in your belly, your status will also be more stable." She nagged in my ear. Every word was sincere, yet I only felt annoyed. Leo would not take a concubine. He has not even finished writing the collection of medicines. Where would he find the time to bring another person into the house? And I did not want to coax him either. I was busy reading medical books, having no mind for other matters, only troubling Su, who worried alone for both of us. After my grandmother passed away, there was only one thing left in my heart, and that was to study medicine. I wanted grandmother in that faraway place to be able to see the little granddaughter she once loved living well by her own hands. She once said I could not rely on others forever, so I would rely on myself. Even if in the future there is no longer a Chen family, nor a Fang family, I will still not starve. I will still rely on this skill to overcome every turn of life. I already had what I wanted to do. I wanted to cure diseases and save people, wanted to bring medical skills to the human world, and wanted to become a true healer. More than half a month had passed since I reviewed the medical books I used to study. The capital city had just experienced a light rain, and June began with a clear, cool day. I closed the book, stretched my back, took my notes, and walked out of the room. Su came to greet me, asking where I intended to go. To study, I replied. Leo is in the study. Su's eyes widened, stunned for a moment, then showed joy on her face. Young mistress, finally you have thought it through. She did not follow me, saying she wanted to give Leo and me a chance to be alone, but hurriedly ran back to the room, took a jade hairpin from the jewelry box, and wanted to pin it in my hair. I chuckled softly, not bearing to refuse her kindness. The study faced the sun, light flooded the room. He was eating a peach while redrawing the shape of a herb in front of him. The sunlight falling on him made his hair seem transparent, as if covered by a layer of pale golden light. I stood by watching him for quite a long time, then coughed lightly to attract his gaze toward me. He turned his head, seeing that the person who arrived was me. A look of joy flashed in his eyes, but in the blink of an eye it returned to normal. He placed the peach far away, then walked closer to me, smiling. Why have you come here? I placed the notebook in front of him. On it, I had used red and black ink to mark the medicinal properties of each ingredient along with the places I did not yet fully understand. I came to ask the master a few things about herbs. I tilted my head looking at him. Su said you are angry with me. I thought forever and did not know what I did wrong, so I punished myself by facing the wall for a few days. Finally, I understood. It must be that master saw that this disciple was not diligent in studying, so he was angry. Therefore, I hurried here to correct my mistake and show master. Hearing the word angry, his face showed a moment of awkwardness, not daring to look straight. Only when hearing me continue did he burst into laughter, the tension fading away. He went along with my words, not mentioning the past, just speaking lightly. That is right, I act as a master to others, also hoping my disciple will one day make a name. But it is a pity that disciple refuses to try hard. I bowed slightly, pretending to perform a ceremony. Master, do not be angry, disciple knows the mistake. When a disciple has the skill to bring back spring, surely I will not forget to remember master's name. He laughed loudly, looking up, his eyelashes also dyed golden by the sun. He took my notebook, looked carefully at each page, then pointed at the places I circled in red ink, slowly explaining, his voice gentle as spring rain. At important sections, he paused a little so I could remember. Only, throughout that process, his eyes always avoided looking at me for too long. I realized that but acted as if I knew nothing. When he finished explaining, the western sky was dyed red, as if a maple forest had grown amidst the clouds, red leaves burning brightly in the sunset. It is time for me to return to my room. He closed the notebook, seeming to want to say something more, but only pursed his lips and whispered, "Walk carefully." I burst into laughter. Indeed, I must be careful. Who knows, there might be bandits hiding in your Chen manor, waiting to rob me on the way. He lowered his head in embarrassment, but the corners of his lips curled up slightly. Leo, is it true that in the middle of this month you want to go traveling? I asked. He nodded. Do you want to come along? I also want to go. I looked toward him. I want to be like you, traveling to identify more rare medicinal herbs, and also want to try seeing if I can diagnose and treat people myself. Seeing him hesitate slightly, I frowned, walked up to him, squatted down, and looked up at him. Master, look. Disciples' medical skills are only at this level. If I do not go out to practice, how can I stand side by side with master? He burst into laughter, also squatting down opposite me. Alright, then I will take you. When Madame Cheng heard the news I wanted to follow Leo to travel in Central Shu, her face immediately darkened, resolutely opposing it. As a woman, one should not leave the house. How could one not stay home managing affairs but run around like that? She scolded Leo. It is enough that you mess around alone, but dragging Joy along. If people find out, how will they discuss our Chen family? Seeing Madame Cheng not letting us go, Su immediately whispered in her ear, Madam, why not let the two of them go together? If they are always separated like this, how can you have a grandchild to hold soon? These words were indeed an effective medicine. Between being criticized for letting me show my face outside, and being criticized for having no hair, the lady considered for a while and finally chose the former. She instructed Leo over and over to take care of me carefully, absolutely not letting any mishaps occur. Amidst her endless instructions, the two of us set off by carriage. From the capital city to Central Shu was a long road. We traveled and rested along the way, amidst the dust and fatigue of the journey. We also admired many beautiful landscapes. Leo both taught me pharmacology and had to mind the journey. It was truly very hard work, and only when stopping at relay stations could he rest a little. Because he was so tired, one time when switching horses, he woke up late and missed the merchant caravan we had arranged to travel with, so we had to walk to a nearby town to find another trip. On the way, he constantly apologized, blaming himself for being careless and making me suffer. I tapped lightly on his forehead and laughed. Is this suffering? Just a few days delay, nothing more. It is a good opportunity for me to learn how to identify the roads, later I can lead the way for you. Seeing that I was not bothered, he finally felt at ease. So, throughout the journey, he taught me all kinds of ways to identify directions, from guessing by the sun's position to recognizing the stars. I found it interesting, and the fatigue lessened somewhat. When night came and there was no inn, we had to rest temporarily in a dilapidated temple. He told me to sleep peacefully first while he kept watch outside to guard against wild beasts or robbers. I did not refuse, as a girl with weak strength, forcing myself would only make both of us tired. After sleeping for a few hours, I woke up to take over the watch from Leo. He was too tired. As soon as he lay down, he fell into a deep sleep. Leo was truly very handsome, like jade that had been meticulously carved. The more one looked, the purer he seemed. I gazed for a while, then unconsciously reached out my hand. My fingertip touched the space between his eyebrows. The gentle warmth made my finger tremble, numb for a moment. Then my fingertip slowly slid down, gliding over the high straight bridge of his nose, and stopping at the tip of his nose. It seemed his eyebrows twitched slightly, and my heart skipped a beat, but he did not open his eyes. Surely it was just my illusion. I lowered my head, my fingertip moving down again, stopping at his lips. At that moment, those lips seemed like an invitation, telling me to kiss them. Take advantage of when he was unguarded to kiss him. Tomorrow when he woke up, everything would be as if nothing had ever happened. The space was silent, leaving only the thumping sound of my heart. The seductive voice in my head became clearer and clearer. I leaned down, the distance between us getting closer and closer, just a hair's breadth away. Suddenly I realized Leo was calm to an inappropriate degree. Medical books said that when a person sleeps, their eyelids will tremble slightly, but Leo's did not. I suddenly understood that Leo was awake. He was waiting for me to kiss him. The next day, the sky was clear and bright to the point of arrogance, without a single cloud. The sunlight was harsh enough to dazzle people's eyes. Leo opened an umbrella to shield me, blocking the sun from shining down. He said he slept very well last night but kept yawning incessantly. I ate dry rations while secretly rolling my eyes, damned man, pretending to sleep and then acting tough. If I had known earlier, last night I would have kissed him, then pinched his face to wake him up completely, to see if he could still pretend. But reason told me I should keep the appearance peaceful. Knowing when to stop at the precipice was still the wisest choice. Arriving at the town, the merchant caravan demanded a price that was not cheap, but the route was fast. That was the first time I rode a donkey. Unfortunately, I got the most stubborn one. I tapped its head, but no matter what, it refused to budge. Leo stood by laughing as if he had won a prize. The people in the caravan also burst into laughter, and after laughing, they told me to switch to a gentler one. My sweat dripped profusely while being teased. The fire of anger rose in my body immediately. After a while of both threatening and coaxing, finally, the stubborn donkey obediently listened. Just like that, I rode that donkey straight to Central Shu. Central Shu was unlike anything I had ever seen. The climate was sweltering, and the food was spicy enough to numb my tongue. Leo accompanied me to wander for a few days to relax, and then we both started the main work, asking local doctors if there were any rare native herbs to observe. The people of Central Shu were extremely enthusiastic, hearing we came to find precious medicinal ingredients. The doctors happily introduced several types and even devotedly explained the uses of each. Leo took detailed notes, constantly thanking them. The doctor waved his hand and laughed. We are all in the same profession, why be so polite? Only that your wife was willing to follow you all the way from the distant capital city to here. It shows the affection between the two of you is truly precious. Technically speaking, we are indeed husband and wife. Leo did not deny it, just smiled and nodded. The doctor looked more and more approvingly, even kindly gifting us a handkerchief embroidered with Sichuan brocade, depicting lotus flowers and twin lotus seeds, a symbol of consecutive births of noble sons. Tonight, you two should not be busy with herbs anymore. While you are young, take advantage of the time to have a child. I accepted the handkerchief and said calmly, we want to very much, but unfortunately, he cannot. Leo's smile froze at the corner of his lips. Amidst the somewhat pitying gaze of the doctor, we bowed in thanks and left. On the way, Leo held the notebook. I am extremely well endowed, I assure you. Very impressive, if I do say so myself. After half a year staying in Central Shu, Leo planned to wait until after my birthday to return to the capital city together. By this time, I had set foot almost everywhere in the Central Shu region. Famous doctors were also visited one by one. There was only one last place left, but just as we intended to go, an epidemic broke out there. Leo wanted me to stay behind, saying he would go alone to save people. I almost threw the cup of water in my hand into his face. What? You are a healer, and am I not one? Leo frowned. Do not be stubborn. The epidemic is fierce and dangerous, lives will be lost. Precisely because it is fierce, I must go. Saving one person is one less life lost unjustly. Leo clenched his fists, blocking the door, determined not to yield the way. Seeing this, I stepped up on the stone step, stood on tiptoe to look straight at him, and said, now I am as tall as you, I can stand shoulder to shoulder with you. He was stunned. A moment later, he silently stepped aside. Before, I had only read in books about scenes of rampant epidemics. The books wrote of pestilence circulating, every house filled with corpses and pain, every room echoing with wailing cries. Some families all died, some clans were exterminated. Reading it was already heartbreaking, but witnessing it with my own eyes, I understood that besides grief, there was also a despair that was suffocating. The streets were deserted, every house closed in silence. Sometimes someone pushed a cart carrying corpses past. Everywhere was white with the color of bones. Out of 10 houses, 9 were empty. I had to admit, at that moment I was afraid. Fear crawled along my heart and liver, not just because of death but also because of the strong stench of rot. The atmosphere besieged by death made me want to retreat. My foot stepped back half a step, only half a step. I closed my eyes. When I opened them, the fear in my heart had been dispelled by the pages of medical books I had read. I knew how to treat the plague, knew how to prevent infection. Those experiences were the blood and tears left by predecessors. Every word was soaked in their lives. Those healers did not retreat, so I was not allowed to retreat either. When my mind steadied, the stench out there seemed to disappear. I lifted my foot to step into the battlefield between humans and the god of plague. Be careful. Leo whispered in my ear. He squeezed my hand in his palm, his temperature and mine both burning hot. For 3 days and 3 nights, Leo and I did not sleep a wink. On one hand, we coordinated with the local government to transport corpses to desolate areas for cremation. On the other hand, we joined local doctors and court officials to knock on every door, distributing medicine directly to people's hands, trying to prevent the epidemic from spreading further. We urged the people in the town to sprinkle lime in front of their doors, boil vinegar to eliminate toxic air, and burn mugwort to fumigate their houses. Those who were infected were immediately taken to isolation areas with people to care for them. Leo and I walked back and forth on the boundary of life and death, pulling each life back from the gates of hell. Magistrate Thomas Tao's hair turned white overnight because of this epidemic. The imperial court at that time faced hundreds of difficulties. The war in the northwest was ceaseless, and the 2 Guang provinces were devastated by typhoons. The national treasury was gradually depleted, but they still scraped together 10,000 taels of silver for relief. Unexpectedly, passing through layers of officials, that amount was embezzled until not much was left. When it reached Magistrate Thomas's hands, the remaining silver was pitifully small. He did not sleep a wink for one night, previously relying on his wealthy family to buy an official position for experience. Unexpectedly, after only 2 years, he encountered a great disaster. He considered himself an ordinary person, but even a lowly official was still an official. The people all looked to him. If he ignored them, what if the dead turned into vengeful spirits coming to claim his life? Being an official without caring for the people, it would be better to go home and roast sweet potatoes. Magistrate Tao lamented, and then he sold half of his family fortune to relieve the victims. Heaven blessed him. Finally, the epidemic took a turn for the better. Magistrate Tao covered his face and cried bitterly. People said not long after, he hurriedly left the official circles to return to his hometown to do business. Heaven blessed him once more. A few years later, the emperor investigated the embezzlement of epidemic relief silver. Knowing of Magistrate Tao's noble act, he immediately awarded him a wooden plaque engraved with 2 words. Good official. Although the 2 words were short, they resounded throughout the world. That good official plaque was later hung by him in front of the restaurant he opened. Since then, customers flocked in endlessly. A life as an official considered not in vain. However, those were all things that happened later. Currently, it has been half a month since the epidemic ended, but heaven did not bless me. Due to overexertion, I fell ill. Coincidentally, the day I fainted was exactly my birthday. Leo said he wanted to make me something called a birthday cake. I'd not know clearly what the dish was, only thinking it must be very delicious. The result was that before I could even taste a piece, I collapsed on the bed. When I opened my eyes, it was already 3 days later. Leo was still sitting beside me, his whole body trembling, holding my hand tightly and not letting go. Seeing me wake up, Leo's Adam's apple moved slightly, his eyes wet, exactly like a small deer pierced through the chest by an arrow. In the moment before understanding what happened, only panic and trembling remained. Leo's voice was hoarse. You are still alive, right? I tried to force a weak smile. No, the person talking to you now is a ghost. I thought Leo would burst into laughter like every other time, but he did not laugh. Leo only whispered tremblingly. I thought you would never wake up. My breath was thin silk, seeming as if in an instant it would vanish immediately. Joy. I was very scared. These past few days I was truly very scared. I was stunned. The look in Leo's eyes looking at me was exactly like the first time on the boat returning from Yangjo to the capital city. Because I am your wife, right? Leo was silent, still avoiding, still running away. I smiled bitterly, intending to find some words to break that heavy silence, but before I could speak, my lips were blocked by Leo. That was a soft, hot, and trembling kiss, yet it carried determination, as if fearing that if he stopped, everything would vanish immediately. This time he did not pretend to sleep anymore. Soberly immersed. Joy, I like you? I am very certain, I like you? I turned my head, my breath still lingering with the taste of the kiss just now. Leo's finger gently grazed the corner of my mouth, but those words shook my heart. Although I had guessed it long ago, when Leo said it so frankly, my heart still pounded, my mind blanked, not knowing what to do. Before I could react, he lowered his head and whispered, only that I cannot like you. I froze. Sue's words seemed to echo in my ears. I placed my hand on the hand holding my cheek and gently pulled it down. My fingertips touched Leo's wrist. The beat was strong and steady, showing no sign of illness. Can your illness not even be detected by pulse reading? I understood why Leo wanted to avoid me, simply because he was concerned about his own illness and did not want to implicate me. Sue said, doctors have examined him, there is nothing serious, just that Leo worries unnecessarily. But I did not believe it. How could someone always optimistic like Leo suffer so much over a groundless matter? If the illness was to the extent that even pulse taking could not detect it, it must be a terminal illness that even Leo had no way to cure. Leo laughed softly, a smile mixed with a bit of bitterness. That is right, do not speak of now. Even in 100 years there will be no medicine to cure my illness. The air suddenly thickened, silent to the point of suffocation. Leo sighed. That sigh in the silence sounded even more painful. Then he forced a smile, trying to look lighthearted. Let's go, you have been in a coma for days. Let me take you out to eat something. I heard a new porridge shop open nearby, we can eat porridge and talk. I have many things I want to say to you. Leo said he originally did not belong to this world. He came from the 21st century. It was unclear why he fell into such a strange era. He missed home very much. After all, when he left, he was only 20 years old. From a modern youth full of vitality, he suddenly turned into a young duke living in a feudal society full of etiquette and chains. Many times he could not distinguish if this was a grace or a disaster from heaven. In this society, human life was not worth a single coin. He witnessed with his own eyes a noble young master riding a horse in the street, trampling an innocent commoner to death, finally only being beaten with 20 strokes and then let go. There were also those in high positions taking a fancy to someone else's concubine, because of which a living woman was forced to be a gift for another. He grew up under the red flag. Imbued with ideas of human rights, how could he harmonize with this place? But he also knew he alone could not change the entire era. Not being assimilated by the times was already trying his best. He spent 5 years looking for a way back but in vain, and spent another 2 years accepting the truth that he would have to live here for a lifetime. Finally, he was forced to accept the principle: since he had arrived, he should be at peace and stay. Since he could not leave, he must live decently. But a person living a life cannot do nothing, otherwise he would be lost in the human world. Ignorant within himself, he asked himself what he could do. He had no interest in being an official, and no talent for business, so he returned to medicine. In his previous life, he studied medicine. It was only a pity that before he could graduate, he got lost in this wretched place. If so, why not start again, devoting his heart to the path of medicine? He read medical books, apprenticed to learn the trade, day after day, month after month. He came up with the idea of compiling a complete encyclopedia of herbal medicine. He wanted to leave his mark in this world, and that book was the greatest gift he could bring to the human world. He rolled up his sleeves, ready to realize his ambition. But then he collapsed. There was no warning, no cause. He simply collapsed on the flat ground. He felt his legs stiffen, his muscles twitching and convulsing. In that moment, he remembered his grandfather also once had his whole body stiffen, lying paralyzed in bed. His father was the same, finally committing suicide because he could not bear the pain. Before, he always thought it was a stroke, but now he understood it was a terrifying genetic disease, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS. Leo checked the records, looking through the causes of death of generations of men in the Chen family. Indeed, most became paralyzed all over and then passed away. His grandfather fell ill at 40, died at 47. His father fell ill at 18, died at 23. The pen in his hand trembled, the writing not forming lines. At this point, he could affirm it was a genetic disease in the family, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. He came from the 21st century, a place with sophisticated medicine, combining Eastern and Western medicine, yet there was still no cure for that disease. Let alone in a society still backward like this, he had foreseen his own future. For the next 5 days, he locked himself in his room, not speaking, not eating, only thinking. Thinking about crossing through time, thinking about the illness waiting, thinking about separation and death. Each thing was terrifyingly immense and also incredibly ironic. After 5 long days, he opened the door and stepped outside. If the future was destined to be a tragedy, then the only way was to grasp the present. That was the only answer, and he accepted it. But Madame Cheng refused. After he passed the age of 15, she began discussing marriage for him. He refused time and time again. He understood clearly the pain when the disease struck. He did not want any child of his to inherit that suffering, nor did he want to tie someone else's heart to his own sorrow. He told Madame Cheng about the hereditary disease in the family. She did not believe it. So he described in detail the symptoms of his father and grandfather when they fell ill. Actually, Madame Cheng already knew the Chen family died young. Everyone in the capital city knew, only tacitly understanding it. Therefore, although the Chen family was ducal, marriages were accepted with lower status families. That was also the reason a young lady from a small official's family like her was married into the duke's manor. Hearing him recount it, her face turned pale because what he said was exactly like the scene of her husband and father-in-law back then. She believed it, but believing it made her even more panicked. Before he could comfort her, she hurriedly looked for a new marriage match for him. The Chen family cannot have its lineage cut off. If you do not have an heir, after you die, the title will be passed outside, and relatives from the branch families will come to fight for the entire family fortune. Then just adopt a child. An adopted child is not blood after all. Can you bear the gossip of the world? He choked on his words. Right, he forgot this was ancient times. Here, continuing the incense smoke and reputation were more important than life or the pain of descendants. He asked those girls, if they knew their future husband would definitely die early, would they truly want to marry? That sentence was like a knife stabbing straight into Madame Cheng's heart. She had only been married into the Chen family for 3 years when her husband died. Fortunately, she still had him, so she kept her standing in the duke's manor. If she could choose again, would she still want to? He said, Mother, that is deception, using someone else's happiness to patch up the emptiness within oneself. This one sentence made Madame Cheng wake up. Right, so it turned out that year she was also the one deceived. She wiped her tears, completely extinguishing the intention. but the gossip in the capital city was vicious. Rumors began to spread widely, saying he had a bad ailment, saying he lusted for male beauty, saying he could not perform marital duties. Madame Chen could not bear it. All her life she feared gossip and slander most. Tormented for 2 years, finally, she chose Su as a daughter-in-law. Su's family was poor, she could use money to exchange. Use silver to replace lies, that could be considered not betraying anyone. Unexpectedly he got angry, left home to travel, and did not return for half a year. And then, returning from the trip to Yangjo, Madame Chen brought back a little girl. Since then, his wife was no longer Su but the granddaughter of her closest friend in life. The bowl of porridge in my hand was empty. His story of the past was also truly long. I listened while eating, finishing one bowl, I ordered another. Because only when my mouth was busy eating did I not have to say anything. And when not speaking, he would not realize my throat was choking up. I did not understand where the 21st century was. I only understood that he did not originally belong to this world, and in the place he used to live, all rules were different. He was unconvinced, did not understand, but had to accept. I also did not clearly know what amyotrophic lateral sclerosis was. I only knew he said there was no cure and the outcome was destined. He did not want to implicate me, nor did he want to still be bound to the mortal world when about to die. Joy. Before meeting you, I only wanted to finish compiling the herbal collection, and then quietly wait for the Innis to strike, leaving this realm without regret. But the blue sky does not pity me, and even less pities you. It makes me hesitate, makes me give birth to thoughts I should not have. I do not know how to face it. Truly sorry. I truly do not know. The weather in Central Shu was humid and sultry, even the air seemed covered with a thin layer of mist, the damp cold seeping into the heart. He tried to smile, wanting to soothe the silence in his words, but the corners of his lips were heavy as lead. He could only take a deep breath, turning it into a silent sigh. I opened my mouth, breaking the silence. The porridge in your bowl is cold. Saying that, I stood up to call the shop owner to bring a new bowl. A few short steps, yet I found them incredibly precious because I could temporarily avoid for a moment, to hide the empty mood churning inside, to focus only on a bowl of porridge without thinking about life and death, about the future. The hot porridge was served. He forced himself to drink a few sips and then put down the spoon. He placed a few copper coins on the table. His voice low, finished eating, let's go back. He stood up, his green robe blending into the bustling crowd. Horses and carriages rolled by, the noise swallowing his figure. I watched, standing motionless in the street. A carriage passed behind his back, and he was gradually obscured by the crowd. I watched silently, and then I ran. I ran toward him in the vast sea of people passing back and forth, reaching out to grab his hand. He turned back, his eyes surprised. In those eyes, I saw reflected affection surging vastly like crashing waves. If the future was destined to be like that, if fate could not be changed, then I did not mind spreading flowers on the path to that destiny, did not mind writing an extra stroke of ink on the page of his life. Leo, I love you, that is enough, just that is enough. After returning to the capital city, Madame Chen held a cleansing banquet for us. During the meal, she watched me and him chattering together, her eyes smiling into slits overjoyed. Central Shu is a good place, Madame Chen concluded. Leo ladled a bowl of soup for me, smiling as he handed it to me. Since leaving Central Shu, that smile had never left the corners of his lips. Although sometimes late at night, he was still silent. As long as I approached, all gloom vanished. I became his medicine. The medicine curing the illness in his heart. What if in the future you regret it? He asked. I smiled. Loving you is my business, not because of you. He froze. He had never thought of this answer. I accepted the bowl of soup, hurriedly putting it into my mouth before Madame Cheng's satisfied gaze. Living in the capital city for 2 years, I had gotten used to the taste of this place. The warm soup flavor spread in my throat, warming even my heart. After the meal, he intended to return to study. Madame Chen refused. Before, you said you were newly married, feelings were still faint, and you were busy studying medicine, so you did not live together. Now returning from far away, love is deep and affection is strong, why still sleep separately? I also looked toward him, honestly, I also wanted to be with him, to be close, to act spoiled like on the way back. Only that whenever night came, he consciously separated, absolutely refusing to come to my room. I used to be suspicious, even secretly thinking, maybe he had some other unspeakable illness. Madame Chen frowned, her eyes seeming to want to tie him up and push him into the bridal room. But he avoided the gaze of both of us, speaking gently. No, not suitable. What is not suitable? You two are husband and wife, married for 3 years. Why is it not suitable? He blushed, stammering. Her age is not enough, really not suitable. What? Madame Chen did not understand yet, but he hurriedly grabbed my hand and ran out of the courtyard, ignoring her calling from behind. Under the moonlight, he took me back to my room, preparing to turn and leave. I tugged at his sleeve, looking up to ask, "What do you mean by saying I am not old enough?" He chuckled softly. In my world, the allowed age is 18. What does allowed mean? He was flustered, retreating half a step. It is, what is it? I stepped closer. He put his hand on my shoulder, kissed lightly on my forehead, then on my eyes, on the tip of my nose. Only fleetingly. Light as a dragonfly touching water. It is behavior that goes beyond things like that. He let go of my shoulder, even his earlobes turning bright red. I understood, my face burning hot. The moonlight was bright and clear. He said, "Wait until you are 18. Finishing his sentence, he was like being blown away by the wind, running and disappearing into the dark night. 18. Only 1 more year. I tilted my head, the corners of my mouth carrying a smile. Madame Chen became even more impatient, urging us to have children soon. Leo always found ways to block her words but still could not resist Madame Chen's nagging. So he decisively rented a small courtyard elsewhere in the capital city, opened a free clinic, and told me to come help. Madame Chen found out and was furious, lecturing a storm about how women must keep etiquette, showing faces outside. What kind of system was that? Leo was too lazy to argue, just telling me to cover my ears and not listen to those futile words. But Madame Chen still refused, even grabbing Leo's ear intending to beat him. Leo hurt until tears flowed, then said one sentence, "Women have 3 obediences at home: follow father, married follow husband, husband dies follow son. Now mother must listen to son, wife must listen to husband. Speaking according to rules, both of you must listen to me." Madame Chen was rendered speechless. Leo sighed in relief, grabbed my hand and ran away. The courtyard Leo rented was not big, the medical consultation fee was very low. The people coming for the examination were all poor people around the area. The long lines snaked all the way to the door. The 2 of us, each with a task. I took pulses. He prescribed medicine. Before long, our reputation echoed throughout the capital city. People praised the couple Leo for their benevolent heart and skills, saving the world and helping people. Hearing that, I felt unhappy. Why was it Leo? My name was omitted. Why'd it not be called the couple Joy? Seeing me unhappy, Leo acted overjoyed and said, "Joy, you have gone ahead of the times." I did not understand but was also used to his strange words, so I did not ask more. Of course, the capital city also gradually spread rumors that I did not keep the duty of a woman. Of the 3 unfilial acts, having no descendants is the greatest crime. Not thinking about bearing an heir for the husband, yet showing face outside, not advising the husband to study for exams, yet indulging the husband to cause trouble. Such a good man has been taught bad by her. The daughter-in-law of the Chen family truly makes the whole Duke's manor lose face. Gossip came and went endlessly. At first, I felt sad, but gradually I was also infected by Leo's thick skin and didn't care much anymore. Sue occasionally came to help look after things, but every time she brought words of rebuke and anger from Madame Chen. Over time, we also got used to it. Recently, Sue had not come anymore. I was a bit worried, intending to go back to the manor to see if she encountered any trouble. When she appeared, that day we encountered a somewhat awkward patient. More correctly, they had no illness at all. Just that they had given birth to 4 daughters and still had no son, so they came to ask if there was a problem with their bodies. Leo said that was normal. Giving birth to a boy or girl was the same, and advised them to go back early to yield space to people who truly needed medical examination. But the 2 did not agree, persistently begging Leo to take their pulse and prescribe a formula to bear a son. "Doctor, I beg you, please show us a way. If we give birth to another daughter, it will just be an added burden. We truly cannot afford to raise any more." While arguing, Sue walked in. She was wearing mourning clothes, her eyes red and swollen, her spirit panicked, her steps unsteady. I hurriedly ran to support her, asking what happened, but Sue did not answer. Hearing the couple speak, her eyes gradually blurred, tears welling up. Must one give birth to a son? Only bearing a son is worthy of ancestors. Why, are daughters not your children? Sue's voice grew louder and louder, loud enough to echo through the whole courtyard, loud enough to make every eye turn toward her. Angry, resentful, helpless. The couple was frightened. The room went silent for a moment. Seeing the situation was unstable, Leo and I hurriedly dismissed everyone and closed the door. When we turned back, seeing Su drenched in tears, I hugged her, asking urgently, "What on earth happened?" Su sobbed in my arms. "My younger sister was sold." Su said that her father had passed away. When he died, her mother was 4 months pregnant with a son. Truly ironic. Su laughed bitterly. "My sisters and I served him for so many years, yet on his deathbed, he only mumbled that finally the family had an heir, not mentioning us a single word." Leo and I silently poured her a cup of hot tea, sitting quietly to listen. After father died, mother was overly grief-stricken, damaging the pregnancy key. The doctor came to see and said although it was not dangerous, she must be careful to preserve it. Hearing that, mother still felt uneasy, immediately spending a large sum of money to invite a wanderer claiming to be a sorcerer. Su's voice choked, breaking off. "That scammer said my sister's destiny clashed with the child in the womb, and even incited mother to sell her. And she truly did it. If I had not discovered it in time and brought her back, I fear she would have been bought by someone by now." I took a stick and beat that liar until his head bled. Only then did he confess it was all fabricated. Before, he had also done this just to earn money selling children. My mother regretted it, hugging me and my sisters apologizing. She cried miserably, saying it was only because she feared her son would meet misfortune, hoping we understood her feelings. Su's tears fell drop by drop into the teacup, dissolving into the water then rising with the steam, finally lingering in her eyes. "But I cannot understand," she choked. "I only feel disgusted, truly very disgusted. My sister is a living person, yet she is not equal to something not yet formed." Her whole body trembled, tears falling ceaselessly. I heartbrokenly wiped her tears. Leo only knew to sigh. "I did not expect that during this time you experienced so many things." I blew on the tea to cool it and brought it to her lips. "Drink some water." Su dazedly accepted it, drank the cup of tea in one breath, swallowing even the bitterness of the tea leaves along with her tears. We all did not know how to comfort her. There are things that are clearly wrong, yet are elevated into standards, even into the principles of life. No one dares to shake them. That night I hugged Su to sleep in the room. She cried in my arms until late at night before falling asleep. In her dreams, she called her parents, called her younger sister, clearly affectionate calls, but her face was full of confusion and suffering. Madame Chen became more and more impatient. She sent people to pass words, 3 sentences and none left the topic of having children. Leo heard it so much he got annoyed, so he closed the door and refused to meet. So Madame Chen came in person. The weather was November, cold winds slipped into the house. She did not take a carriage but walked in from a cold mist. Leo shrugged at me, looking helpless. Fearing the two would argue again, I immediately avoided going into the inner room. Their mother-son matter, it was best I did not intervene. That conflict had been buried for more than 10 years. I had only been a daughter-in-law for 3 years. What could I say? I brewed sweet red date tea, intending to wait for them to finish talking to bring it out, but contrary to my prediction, today they did not exchange words back and forth like usual. Madame Chen sat down silently watching Leo examine patients, saying nothing. Only until seeing off the last patient did she speak up. "Now you can be considered to have some achievement." Madame Chen rarely praised his medical skills. To her, 9,000 jobs are low class, only reading books is high, all professions were lowly, only studying was noble. Leo not taking exams, although reluctantly agreed to by her, remained a thorn in her heart. Over the years he went against the path, also making her endure not a few times, but today she praised him. Leo was surprised, somewhat confused. Madame Chen continued, "Since childhood, you have not minded others' words. People said you were the only son of the Chen family, so you had to shoulder the revitalization of the household. You did not care, only insisting on following your medical path." Leo chuckled softly. Life's changes are unpredictable. 100 years later, who knows what will happen? The so-called revitalizing the household is also just empty talk. Ultimately it is also for future descendants, and I originally did not intend to have descendants. So what is there to say about revitalizing? Madame Chen froze, silent for a long time before speaking softly. "Then what about joy?" Hearing my name, I tilted my body slightly to look outside the room. "You say you won't live long so you don't want children, but have you thought about the second half of Joy's life? If there are no children, even if I treat her like a biological daughter, the Chen family clan will not acknowledge her. When the title falls into someone else's hands and the Chen family is no more, how do you want Joy to continue living?" Joy's father died, the second brother inherited the property. How he treated Joy, you know clearly. Do you want after you die, she has to endure that scene one more time? Leo was stunned. I was also dumbfounded, not expecting Madame Chen to mention that matter. Leo, you can ignore worldly rules because you are a man. The world is always tolerant and generous toward men. But women are different. In this life, their path is destined to go through relying on father, relying on husband, relying on son. Even if it is for joy, you should bow before that rule. Not everyone can bear the world's slander like you. Madame Cheng's voice gradually carried indescribable emotions. Leo was silent. The person usually good at arguing like him was now defeated by her words. Madame Cheng closed her eyes, whispering, "Today is the day your father and I got married." Leo, mother has experienced it. Mother understands. That is why I am certain that no matter what, we must leave a way out for you and Joy. But mother, that child is not a replacement but a real life. It deserves to be born in love and expectation. How can it be seen as a way out? Leo covered his face, his voice trembling. Mother, I do not want my child to suffer the same fate as me. You know clearly how painful amyotrophic lateral sclerosis is when it strikes. Madame Cheng interrupted. It will not be a replacement. The whole Chen family will love it, and it will not suffer from that disease. Those words were like thunder in a clear sky, making both Leo and me stunned. Outside, Su walked in. Madame Cheng spoke in a calm voice at the same time as the sound of the teacup breaking in my hand. I intend to let Leo take a concubine. I stepped out from the inner room, bowing to pay respects to Madame Cheng. She gently helped me up, asking kindly, "Did you burn your hand?" I shook my head, my eyes falling towards Su standing nearby. Madame Cheng held Su's hand, while I hurriedly held on to Leo who had started sitting restlessly. I trust Madame Cheng. She once promised grandmother she would take care of me, so surely she will not do anything to harm me. Madame Cheng whispered, "Su's younger brother is about to be born. I want to accept that child into the manor, counting him as a child of the Chen family, also a child Su gave birth to." Leo frowned. "You mean to let Su's brother call her mother?" Su lowered her head, and Madame Cheng answered for her. "That is right. That child will be recorded in the Chen family genealogy with the status of the eldest son of a concubine. Like that, if later Joy still wants to have children, this child will not occupy their position. And if not, then this child can be recorded under Joy's name, becoming the only child of the Chen family." While I was still dazed, Leo could not hold back anymore. He jumped up, questioning Su. "You agree? Even to a ridiculous thing like this? You agree?" Su gave a tragic smile, looking up at him. "Young master, I agree." The room sank into silence. Liu could not believe it, only staring at her blankly. Madame Cheng whispered, "Then it is decided." I held Su's hand, feeling her hand trembling violently. There were 2 months left until Su's mother gave birth. Their whole family was secretly brought into the Chen manor. Very few people knew about this matter. Leo still could not accept it. He kept muttering that a person who had received 9 years of compulsory education like him truly could not understand such a thing that went against ethics. Finally, he decisively dragged me out to continue practicing medicine outside. I said Su had her suffering. What suffering? I did not know. She did not say, and it was not convenient for me to ask. Leo sat on the donkey cart turning to look at me. "What about you? You also accept it?" I pondered for a while then replied, "My opinion is not important. Mother once taught me that the ways of this world are very complicated. One cannot completely accept, nor completely oppose. Right and wrong must be weighed by oneself." Now I still remember that teaching clearly. I truly do not know which is right, which is wrong. I only know that Madame Cheng thinks it is right. Su also thinks it is right, so that is enough. Leo sighed, his gloomy eyes looking out the window. "Joy, I am very scared." "Scared of what?" "Scared that one day I will also accept it. I am afraid of being assimilated myself." I paused slightly. The donkey cart passed through a forest, tree shadows flickering outside the window. I thought for a while then leaned close to him, resting my chin on his shoulder, pointing outside. "Look at that forest. Even if you glance at it and see only trees, every tree has differences. Leo, you are the same, you are a distinct tree. A tall tree in the forest will be broken by the wind, but that does not mean you are dissolved. Even amidst 10,000 trees, you can still keep yourself. How a tree wants to grow is still its own choice." A gentle breeze blew, causing branches and leaves to sway, rustling as if in response. Leo was slightly moved, turning back to gently kiss my cheek. "You are right, everything is decided by me." We traveled toward the south. Leaving the capital city, we began the journey on our own 2 feet. Leo tore a piece of cloth and wrote on it, a joy couple, conscientious traveling doctors, medicine arrives, sickness leaves. I looked and laughed until my stomach hurt. This line had no literary flair at all. We are going to poor areas. What need is there for literary flair? It is good if they can read and understand. Thinking about it, he was right. We traveled and practiced simultaneously. The road was long and hard, but the two of us talked and laughed constantly, finding joy in fatigue. Only that this was also the first time I truly saw all kinds of lives. The capital city was the place under the emperor's feet, orderly and prosperous. Yangjo was wealthy, everyone was well off. But when arriving in remote, poor regions, I understood how different the world was. Many families were so poor they didn't have enough to eat, let alone money to buy medicine. We cured diseases while admiring their wisdom amidst adversity. They used soot from the bottom of the pot called 100-grass frost to treat vomiting blood, diarrhea, and also applied it externally to mouth ulcers. They took the layer of burnt yellow earth at the bottom of the stove, called hidden dragon liver, to treat bleeding due to cold nature and morning sickness. So many folk remedies made Leo and me feel our own knowledge was truly shallow. Every day Leo added notes to the medicine book, wanting to preserve the people's wisdom to illuminate future generations. Looking at the increasingly thick notebook of herbs, I asked, "Is it almost finished?" Leo smiled and shook his head. "Not at all, there are still many medicinal ingredients not yet recorded." I rested my chin on my hand, looking at each page filled with writing, but birds, beasts, plants, and medicinal materials in the world are countless. How can we record all those folk remedies? If we do not see with our own eyes, hear with our own ears, how can we know how miraculous they are? That is precisely why I must go everywhere, from the noble court to the distant Jianghu. I should see and hear everything. My lifespan is limited, but there will be successors, passed down generation to generation. Step-by-step recording, step-by-step perfecting, folk medicine will develop more and more. I closed the notebook, sighing with emotion. So we must devote our whole lives to the medical path, enduring wind and dew, enduring the sky as a blanket and earth as a mat. Leo smiled and rubbed my head. Joy. In this world, there are people who like to stay peacefully at home managing affairs, and there are people who like to walk amidst the beautiful rivers and mountains. Those are all choices of human life. There are joys and sorrows, suffering, and different lengths. As long as you think carefully, know what you truly want, then even if it is hard, a life is not wasted. I stood frozen for a moment, then smiled and said, "I chose that path long ago, so how can I mind the hardships?" Leo and I walked for a whole month, finally arriving at Yangjo. Our clothes were tattered, patched several times, looking no different from beggars. But Yangjo bordered the sea. This was the first time I got to see the sea. The sky and sea are connected in one color, vast and endless. The sunset light was like pouring a bucket of fire, golden, orange, red, purple, blue along the line of sight. Layers of waves blended together, creating a brilliant, moving picture in the rising and falling tide. At that moment, all the fatigue of days and nights on the long road suddenly vanished. Beautiful. I sat by the sea, unable to distinguish whether the world swallowed the sea, or the sea spread its arms to embrace the world. Leo picked up a seashell and pressed it to my ear. "Listen, inside is the sound of ocean waves." Indeed, the vague rustling sound inside the shell sounded like the rising tide. I was intending to listen more carefully when Leo took the shell away. He leaned close, his voice soft as a breeze in my ear. "Joy, I love you." The distance was very close. I heard clearly every word, every breath, so real, so pure. When returning to the capital city, Leo and I used the remaining little silver to hire a carriage. Sue's mother was approaching her due date. The two of us worried she would have a difficult birth again like last time, so we decided to return early. Along the way, Leo was not very happy. I comforted him. "The marriage between you and Sue is just like me with you. It is all what is that word again? Right, a formal marriage just to stop the mouths of the world. Last time you could accept it, why not this time?" Leo turned his face away and did not reply, only performed acupuncture on himself. He said the long road was tiring, doing so was to relax muscles and bones. Seeing him gloomy, I had to remain silent. Arriving in the capital city, it was already December, just in time to encounter the first snow of the year. The streets were covered with a thin layer of white. Leo feared slipping and falling, so he walked very slowly. "Falling will hurt a lot." I burst into laughter, teasing. "Why are you so weak today, even afraid of falling?" Leo was about to retort when I grabbed his hand and pulled hard to one side, originally intending only to scare Leo. Unexpectedly I made him truly fall. Luckily there was a wooden rack beside him. Leo held onto it in time so he did not fall too heavily. I hurriedly ran to help, but Leo deliberately leaned on the wooden rack, refusing to stand up. What to do? Joy, I fell and am paralyzed on half my side. You have to take responsibility for me. Looking at that stubborn appearance, I burst into laughter. Alright then, I will use this whole life to compensate you. Is that enough? Leo was stunned, whispering, "Who get it? I still have a conscience. Matters that make you suffer a loss like that, I won't do." He joked while pushing himself up with his hands, but perhaps because of fatigue, his movements were a bit slow. After the joke, the snow fell even thicker. When the two of us arrived at the Chen manor, a thin layer of snow covered our shoulders. Madame Cheng and Su were in the backyard. When I arrived, they were surrounding Su's mother warming up. Seeing us return, Madame Cheng showed joy on her face. Su also hurriedly went to prepare food. Leo answered Madame Cheng's inquiries while checking Su's mother's pulse. She had nourished the pregnancy well, completely different from last time. Her blood and qi were sufficient, her body plump, looking somewhat blessed. She intended to bow to me and Leo, but I hurriedly stopped her. Madame Cheng also laughed. Now Su is a concubine of Leo, she is an elder. How can she bow to juniors? Only then did Su's mother stop, but she still said humbly, "I dare not call myself an elder of the young master. It is just thanks to the blessing of the child in the womb that I received the madam's pity." Leo placed his hand to take the pulse, and only after a while did his expression relax. Nothing serious, just that the difficult birth last time left a bit of a root cause. I fear this birth will still consume strength. In the coming time, you should eat lightly, absolutely avoiding too much salty and greasy food. Su's mother hurriedly nodded in agreement. I also breathed a sigh of relief. That day of birth fell exactly on an auspicious hour, and encountered a heavy snowfall. Outside was covered in white, breathtakingly beautiful. Madame Cheng said, "This child must be blessed to choose such a good time to come to the world." Pity that Su's mother was not blessed. I did not know why, but the fetal position was skewed and could not be born for a long time. Leo and Madame Cheng waited outside, while I and Su were inside, anxious to the point of sweating, trying again and again to turn the fetus to the correct position. Su's mother gripped her daughter's hand tightly. The tragic screams made my heart feel torn into pieces. I gritted my teeth, holding the scissors beside me, cutting below, hoping to reduce the obstruction for the child to be born. But the fetus was still skewed, the head not visible. Leo asked from outside, "How is it inside?" Seeing my heavy expression, Su let go of her mother's hand, wiped her dry tears, and called out, "Young master, my mother is not well, please save her life." Hearing that, Leo immediately rushed in. Madame Cheng also followed. As soon as the two entered, the thick smell of blood assaulted their noses, making them frown tightly. Leo went to the bedside, checked his mother's condition, then took out acupuncture needles. After several insertions, she managed to catch a breath. "Give up the child, perhaps we can still save your mother's life." Leo spoke directly, his tone decisive. Clearly, this matter had no room to turn. Before Su could reply, her mother gritted her teeth and said, "No. If this child is lost, the Lin family line will be cut off. What face do I have to see the Lin ancestors?" I couldn't help but blurt out, "The Lin ancestors are not your ancestors, what are you guilty about?" Su sobbed by the bed, "Mother, look at yourself, isn't your life important?" But her mother still held her child's hand tightly, trembling, saying, "Big girl, no matter what, I must keep him. If he is lost, I cannot live either." Leo still waited for Su's decision. She looked at her mother covered in blood, tears soaking her haggard face. She closed her eyes, a tragic smile blooming on the corners of her lips. "Save my mother." Hearing that, her mother cried even louder. "Silly child, you must save your brother. You do not value your own life, but I do. You do not see yourself as a human being, but I still do." Su choked with sobs, her voice trembling. Leo obeyed the order, immediately starting to handle it. I also stayed by to help. But as minutes and seconds passed, Su's mother's condition became more and more critical. Her eyes had lost life, remaining only a cloudy gray color. Madame Cheng saw it, tightened the handkerchief in her hand, and then silently walked out. Outside, snow fell thickly, cold to the bone. When the door opened, a gust of cold wind rushed in, making everyone shiver. Leo sighed softly. When he looked up again, there was no hesitation in his eyes. December, a December cold to the heart and liver. The Chen family welcomed the first child born. A weak cry rang out in the room full of the smell of blood and cold air. Leo carried the child to Su's mother. "Auntie, it is a boy." I could no longer distinguish whether Su's mother was laughing or crying. She choked up looking at the son she struggled to give birth to, trying to lift her hand wanting to touch him, but had no strength left at all. Too much blood loss, cannot be saved anymore. I only kept the child, Leo said, his voice full of guilt. Su no longer heard anything. She slumped by the bed, witnessing her mother's life gradually drift away with her own eyes. Madame Cheng led her younger sisters in, saying, "Go. Hurry to greet your mother for the last time." She put the youngest one down, gently pushing them forward. No matter what, they had to meet their mother one last time. Hearing her daughters arrive, Su's mother finally moved her gaze from the child in Leo's arms. She tried her best, gently stroking each face one by one. Leo whispered to me, "You stay to watch. Mother and I will go give the child medicine. He stayed in the womb too long. His breathing is very weak." I nodded, watching the two of them leave with the child. Only sobbing sounds remained in the room. The children were too small to understand what life and death separation was, but sensing their mother's pain, they kept calling mother. And her breathing was already weak, yet she still tried to respond to each sound. "Mother is here," Su sobbed. "Mother, why? Why on earth is it like this?" She did not understand. Was a son that important? Clearly there were already so many daughters, yet she insisted on giving birth again. Clearly last time she almost died, yet she still had to give birth. Clearly she was near death, yet refused to let go. Why? Ultimately, was it the skewed fetus or that ideology soaked into the bone marrow that killed her? Su thought forever and could not figure it out. Her mother smiled softly, a smile filled with fatigue. "Big girl, mother's mission is completed." Again words she could not understand. Su no longer had the strength to distinguish right from wrong. "Right, mother, your mission is complete. Father will be happy. The Lin ancestors will also be happy." She forced a smile to make the words sound more sincere, but that lie hurt like needles piercing straight into the heart. "Now mother has no regrets anymore," she whispered. Su asked, "Mother, did you truly love us?" She still could not help but ask, if you loved, why sell a daughter for a younger brother? First time for superstition, second time for money. Her brother was born weak, her mother wanted to nourish him, so she sold a daughter to exchange for precious medicine. If not thanks to Madame Cheng accidentally encountering her on the street, she would have lost another sister. Because of that, Su accepted being Leo's concubine, accepted letting her brother call her mother, just to have money, just so her mother would not have to sell children because of poverty. But her heart was too chaotic. When she was small, during the Ghost Festival, the family had no money. Her father stayed up for several nights working just to buy them a few flower lanterns. The flickering light shone on the silhouette of her mother's sewing clothes. When the children were tired, there was meat on the table. Parents ate not a piece, picking it all for the children. Were those things not love? Where was that love? Why was it gone now? "Mother, did you truly love us?" Su asked again, her voice choking. Tears fell from the corners of her mother's eyes. She let go, daring not to touch her children anymore, only gasping. "Which family is not like that? We do not have the right to choose. When I was small, because the family was poor, my two younger sisters drowned." Speaking to this point, she could not continue. She looked at Su, breathing out, "Mother wronged you all, but fortunately, Mother can use my life to exchange for a better future for you all." Hearing this, my eyes trembled slightly. For that son to become a child of the Chen family, of course, the more blood ties cut, the better. Su's mother knew, once she died, the child would have no biological parents left. That way, Madame Cheng would not bear to treat him badly. She dared not bet on human hearts, she could only calculate for her child one last time, even if she had to exchange her life. "I completed the task," Su's mother mumbled and then closed her eyes. "So how can one say there was no love? Just that bound by ideology, even love was brought out to be weighed and chosen." "Mother." Su's cry echoed throughout that freezing December weather. Her sisters also cried along. "Mother, I have no mother anymore. No one to sew clothes for me anymore. My mother." The news that the Chen family had an heir quickly spread throughout the capital city. My reputation finally improved a bit, at least people no longer attached the label of jealous and malicious to me. Su was busy managing the funeral for her mother. Leo and I wholeheartedly took care of the child, and Madame Cheng went to the Chen family ancestral hall to record the child and Su into the genealogy. Those from the branch families who coveted the Chen family's property and title, now hearing there was a legitimate heir, had to extinguish their dreams. The child was named Felix Chen, meaning auspicious as desired. Madame Cheng felt that name was too simple, so she cast lots to see heaven's will, then said to let Su's mother decide whether to keep this name. The lot was shaken several times, finally drawing the word yes. Since it was so, Madame Cheng said no more, only complying. We welcomed New Year's Eve together, staying up through the night in the joy of reunion. Looking at Felix's round eyes, laughing gurglingly, looking like a small sticky rice ball, incredibly cute. Then came the child's full-month party. Days passed just like that. Leo performed acupuncture on himself more and more. I gradually felt something was wrong, but I dared not ask. Details I had previously overlooked now returned one by one, connecting them. The answer gradually became clear, only that instinctively I kept avoiding it. Leo told me the story of Shenong tasting 100 herbs and Li Shizhen testing medicine with his own body. He said, "Joy, I also want to follow their path." From then on, Leo began to drink and test all kinds of strange herbs no one knew, verifying their efficacy and reactions himself. And I sat beside him recording, carefully writing down each symptom of onset and the corresponding detoxification method. But while writing, the ink on the paper kept blurring. I silently used the back of my hand to wipe away the tears at the corners of my eyes, then changed to another sheet of paper to write. Sometimes encountering poison, Leo writhed in pain for a long time before recovering, then laughed self-satisfiedly. "I am truly great," I also laughed along. "You are truly great." This matter was only known by the two of us. Madame Cheng was busy caring for Felix, housekeeping was gradually handed over to Su. Therefore, Leo and I could wholeheartedly devote our strength to testing medicine, but Leo's hand holding the medicine trembled more and more. Sometimes he even stumbled, falling on the ground staring blankly for a long time before being able to crawl up. I bit my lip, crying and laughing while teasing him. "Too silly." Leo scratched his head. "A bit silly." We recorded many more useful things until I saw a type of medicine that could cure grandmother's illness. That medicine in the medical books of predecessors was originally used for a different purpose. It was not until Leo increased the dosage and tested it himself that he discovered it had the effect of 4 ounces moving 1,000 pounds, curing exactly her illness. I then burned that formula to send to grandmother. Surely she in that place would also praise us as great. On my birthday, Leo made me a cream cake. The cake I did not get to eat last year, finally this year I could taste. Madame Cheng said this thing was truly novel, just that the taste was a bit cloying, not equal to the longevity noodles she cooked for me herself. Su had not yet escaped the pain of losing her mother. She reluctantly ate 2 bites and put the empty plate aside. Leo acted very hurt, only I kept my head down eating, my face covered in cream. That appearance made Madame Cheng burst into laughter. She and Su retired early to rest. Seeing my belly was round yet I was still eating, Leo snatched the plate. "Don't eat anymore, you'll get bloated." The cake suddenly had a salty taste dancing on the tip of the tongue, spreading to the nose, stinging to the point of bitterness. "I am afraid in the future I will no longer get to eat cake made by you." Leo burst into laughter. "Why so? Next year there will still be birthday cake." "Really?" I held out my little finger, pinky swear. But Leo did not pinky swear with me. He only gently rubbed my head, whispering, "Of course, I have never broken a promise." I looked at him and said, "Leo, I am 18 this year." "Yeah, Leo, I am 18. He laughed. "I know Joy is 18. Joy is an adult already." "Leo, I am 18. I stubbornly said once more. The smile on his lips gradually vanished. I thought he would kiss me like on my birthday the previous year, but he did not do so. No matter I was 18, just by standing on tiptoe I could reach his lips. Leo still did not move. Also no matter, I wrapped my arms around his neck. His Adam's apple moved slightly. Finally, he responded to that kiss. Different from the first time, this time he was gentle and trembling as if afraid of hurting me. I laughed softly. The taste of wine and tears mixed together, candlelight flickering. I raised the wine cup. "I am 18, I can drink wine." "Leo, you still owe me a nuptial cup of wine." His eyes trembled slightly. "After a long, long time," he said. "That is right, we were originally husband and wife. We once said we would always be together." The corners of his eyes were also filled with tears. We drank the nuptial wine. The wine was spicy, burning the throat, making me cough until I bent over. Leo gently patted my back, patting until I could no longer see him clearly. Amidst the misty fog of drunkenness, he picked me up, gently placed me down, breaths mingled within the mandarin duck curtain, the warm blanket like a fairy realm. Leo's illness became more and more severe. Even Madame Cheng realized his body was gradually stiffening. She was too familiar with those symptoms. Her husband in the past was also like that, weakening step by step and leaving the human world. However, she was completely helpless. Besides the pain and panic of realizing the truth, she could do nothing more. She told him to rest, saying perhaps resting more would cure the illness. A truly ridiculous thought, but the last ray of hope for a mother writhing in despair. Liu comforted her. "It is fine, I am not in pain, just a bit stiff in my limbs." But those words helped nothing. Madame Chen cried all day until her tears ran dry, unable to bear the mournful atmosphere in the manor. Liu told me to go out with him to roam by carriage. On the road, he continued to test various herbs, while I took charge of determining direction. I used the methods of observing the sun and stars he taught, leading the carriage running everywhere, east, west, south, north. He leaned on my shoulder, praising, "You are truly smart." I laughed while crying. "We really are the best in the world at praising each other." He also burst into laughter, then whispered, "Right, Joy, I cannot bear to leave you." The smile on my lips stiffened, his tears soaked the shoulder of my shirt. It was March overflowing with vitality, but my Leo was getting weaker and weaker. Even so, he still tried to hold on, still tested medicine, still made me laugh, still did everything as before, until his lower body was completely paralyzed. Only then did he agree to let me take him back to the manor. Madame Cheng fell seriously ill from too much grief, especially after knowing he and I secretly ran away. Su became the manager in the manor, maintaining housework, caring for Felix, and crying daily for the ill, fated young master. Leo looked at that scene, only smiling kindly, leaning his head on the pillow, using his finger to gently wipe a tear from my face. 3 greatest happinesses in life: eating full, sleeping well, smiling. Joy, you are a spirit in the mountain forest, you must smile a lot to be beautiful. I tried to squeeze out a truly beautiful smile. He smiled along softly. Do you know? The first time I met you, I already found you very beautiful. Liar, back then I was still wearing a veil. Really? Those round eyes shining brightly. I still remember when by the rockery hearing you talk to Su. I thought perhaps heaven saw I was too lonely, so sent a spirit to my side. His fingers glided on my cheek, his eyes gentle as water, speaking endlessly. But I am not like others. The path I came here is different. The place I return to is also different. I cannot have attachments, nor can I let anyone be entangled because of me. I cried even more violently. But he liked me to smile, so I wiped my tears again, trying to force a smile once more. Joy, I truly like you very much. Since the time curing the epidemic together, I realized how much I fear losing you. I hate this era, but because of you, I feel it is no longer hateful. Because here there is you. Here I got to meet you. Got to be by your side. That is enough, truly enough. His words became more and more, my tears also fell more and more. Outside the window, rain fell pattering, heavy like the sobbing cry of heaven. Joy, after I am gone, you must live true to your name. When encountering trouble, you must find joy. Do not grieve for me. Perhaps I am just going home, returning to the world that originally belongs to me. Joy, my mother, is imprisoned by the feudal ethics of 3 bonds and 5 virtues. Do not listen to her. Do not keep chastity for me, and do not accept the chastity plaque from the court. If later you meet someone who makes your heart flutter, treats you well, bravely accept it. Just forget me a little slowly, but also do not linger on me forever. Joy, what to do? I truly want to be with you forever, truly want to love you forever. Because of you, I cannot bear to leave this world anymore. His voice choked, tears burst forth, the rain outside grew heavier. Leo still spoke ceaselessly. Although the sound of rain drowned out his choked voice, he still did not stop, as if wanting to tell the story of a lifetime in just that one night. I looked at him without leaving my eyes even for a moment. I wanted to carve his figure into my heart. Leo's voice grew smaller. I rested my head on his chest. He gently stroked my hair. I closed my eyes. He also closed his eyes. I could not sleep. The sound of rain out there was too loud, piercing straight into the heart and liver. He reached out to cover my ears. The world suddenly became quiet again, no sound, only silence. The year I was 18, in March, all things flourishing, my husband Leo left a final sentence and then drank the last poisonous herb. Gently closed his eyes and departed in a dream. He said, Joy, I love you, this whole life will not change. I was in a coma for 7 full days. Madame Chen cried until her intestines broke, but after crying, she still had to force herself up to manage Leo's funeral thoroughly. She sent Su to invite doctors to take my pulse time and again, and even painstakingly found all kinds of items from Yangjo to bring back, hoping to make me regain the will to live. But she thought wrong. I did not want to die at all. I would live very well. It was just that I was too tired, too heartbroken. My body did not have enough strength to shoulder that grief, nor enough to maintain daily life. Just rest enough, just let the sadness lessen, and I will wake up. So after 7 days, I opened my eyes. I saw the red eyes of Madame Chen and Su. I told them, using honeysuckle and peppermint to apply will make it a bit more comfortable. Su burst into laughter amidst tears, while Madame Chen hugged me tightly, scolding me as silly. I only smiled softly. In the days that followed, I locked myself in the room, gathering and arranging all the previous notes. Leo and I had written several thick books together. Seeing those familiar handwriting strokes appear before my eyes again, waves of bitterness rose in my heart. But I suppressed it, wiped my tears dry, and continued my work. Waiting until everything was arranged thoroughly, I went to see Madame Chen, telling her that I wanted to leave the Chen family. Not unexpectedly, Madame Chen fiercely opposed. She was so angry she threw a teacup, resolute not to let me go. Leo is gone, you are a woman, how can you leave the Chen family? Leaving originally relies on these legs, relies on the ability to recognize the road, is knowing clearly where I must go. That has nothing to do with being male or female. Tears had pooled in the corners of her eyes, her voice trembled, almost begging. Mother begs you, stay in the Chen family. If you leave and encounter danger, how will I explain to your grandmother? Your reputation will be damaged. The Chen family will also be laughed at by the world. This capital city, gossip is like 1,000 sharp needles piercing both you and the Chen family. Mother begs you. I looked her, whispering, Mother, those slanders are not important. What is important is what Mother truly wants. I knelt down. 1 kowtow to thank her for harboring me when I was at a dead end with no way out. 2 kowtows to thank for the affection of many years she cared for and loved me like a biological child. 3 kowtows as an apology because in the future I cannot stay by her side to fulfill filial piety. I have my own road to walk. I have my own principles to find. I want to be a doctor hanging a sign to save people. I want to spend my whole life completing this herbal collection. Madame Chen looked at me, eyebrows knitted tight, heart painful like being cut by a knife. What is the most important thing? Her eyes stopped at the scented purse hanging at my waist. That was the object my grandmother wore when she got married, then passed on to me. Madame Chen sighed softly, the tear at the corner of her eye transparent as crystal. Sister Molly once told me, take care of you well. Not getting to see her one last time, I was already too heartbroken. I cannot let her granddaughter also suffer pain like me. Joy, go. She took out a letter from her sleeve. It was the divorce letter Leo had left for me. From then on, the sky was high and the sea was wide. I could freely go. I took a deep breath, bowing to Madame Chen in thanks. The scented purse at my waist. This was the first time I wore it. The needlework on it was clumsy at first glance. It looked like 2 wild ducks playing on the water. But only when looking closely could one see clearly those intertwining threads were clearly mandarin ducks. 5 years later, the northwest desert was dry and hot to the point where just taking a breath felt like swallowing fire. I used a scarf to cover my mouth and nose tightly to avoid sand getting into my lungs and spleen. Throughout that year, I worked as a traveling doctor while researching herbs, accumulating quite a few results. Unknown since then, I had walked to the very border of the Great Zhou. To the north were the barbarians. They had been at war with our dynasty for more than 10 years, hatred deep as water and fire, especially in the last 2 years, whenever meeting, eyes turned red. Unable to share the same sky, I only wanted to find herbs, so every step had to be extremely cautious. By bad luck I fell into the hands of the barbarians. I feared this life would be considered finished. Today my luck was good again. I discovered on the hillside a flower shaped like a gourd, never seen before. I was curious. Just reaching out to pick it, I heard a whoosh, an arrow flew past, sticking into the ground right in front of me. Stopping my movement, I turned around in surprise, seeing a face familiar beyond measure. That person rode a tall warhorse, silver armor shining, lips curled in an arrogant smile. Sister, I saved you once, you should thank me. His voice was clear as a stream, adding those 2 familiar words, sister, immediately linked me back to memories of 2 months ago. He was the little Prince Julianxiao. He was once saved by me. That day he was defeated, covered in blood and fainted on a sand dune. I stopped the bleeding and watched until he woke up, then prepared to leave. But he captured me back to the military camp, saying his sister, the first female general of Great Zhou, Princess Cynthia, was seriously ill and needed me to treat her. I cured her, then discovered that around the camp, many commoners also contracted the same disease, so I requested them to let me use the unused herbs in the army to save the people. Julian did not agree. Border supplies were originally scarce. Herbs naturally had to be prioritized for our army. Those commoners not having it meant they just didn't have it. I frowned, knowing clearly I could not oppose the prince, so I had to find another way. I asked for permission to investigate the cause of the disease. If I had merit, I would exchange it for those herbs. He agreed. The disease was indeed strange. Previous military doctors all died in the raid. The camp lacked people, so they were very happy to have me take on the investigation. Finally, I discovered the source of the disease came from polluted water, tracking from there to catch 2 spies who had poisoned the water source, causing people around the area to suffer. Julian executed those 2, kept his promise to me, handing the herbs to me to handle, but when I intended to leave, he blocked the way with a mischievous smile. Sister has such brilliant medical skills, why not stay in the military camp to contribute to Great Zhou? I hesitated for a long time. As a citizen of Great Zhou, naturally I hoped the country would win the war, but if confined within a framework, unable to freely find medicine, my herbal collection would not know when a few more lines could be written. He saw that hesitation, so sister, just freely enter and exit. I won't stop you, I asked back. Are you not afraid I will betray and bring information to the enemy? He laughed. I have seen traitors, their appearance is very ugly, but sister is beautiful like this. One look and I know you cannot betray. Saying that, Julian handed me a command tablet carved with his name. Sister, this object allows entry and exit from the military camp. Normally just keep it by your chest. Consider placing my name in your heart. I took a deep breath. If I remembered correctly, he had just turned 18. 18 years old and his tongue was already so glib. Indeed, the young generation now was truly formidable. After that, I never returned to the military camp because the number of sick people was too many. Finishing saving them took more than a month. An old man saved by me wanted to repay kindness, gifting me an old tattered book, in which were recorded many strange plants, although incomplete. Who knew if they might be precious herbs? I immediately set off to search, going from this mountain to that stream, and gradually forgot about returning to the military camp. If not for him suddenly appearing today, dropping a teasing sister, I fear I would have completely forgotten who this person was. He jumped off the horse, holding the arrow he just shot in front of my face. This is Hyoscyamus niger, extremely poisonous. If not for me, if sister touched it, I fear you would have gone to meet the king of hell. Tell me, how does your sister intend to thank me? I replied indifferently. I also once saved your life, consider it even. Saying that, I picked the flower and put it in my bag. Seemed this little prince understood Northwest herbs, later asking him a few things might also be good, but Julian was clearly unhappy. How can it be even? I am a prince, my life-saving grace is very precious. I glanced at him. I am a doctor, saving one life is better than building a 7-story pagoda. On my shoulders I carry so many pagodas like that, aren't I more precious than you? He was speechless, unable to out-talk me, so he changed his tone to pitiful wheedling. Sister deceived me, clearly promised to stay in the military camp yet left without a word of farewell. If not for the impending war, worrying sister would encounter danger, so I personally came to pick you up. Perhaps you intended never to return, right? Hearing the word war, I frowned. When does the war start? He replied, by the end of this month we must retake the city in the north. When speaking of war, his expression flashed solemnity, but immediately after, he laughed jokingly, moving close to me. It is fine, sister, I will protect you. I only sighed. Whenever there was war, who knew how many lives would be lost? I was a healer, used to seeing life and death, but witnessing a person leave the human world with my own eyes, I still could not avoid feeling pain. Seeing me silent, he thought I was afraid. He retracted his joking look, immediately becoming serious. Don't worry, it will be fine. The previous loss was because there was a traitor in the ranks. This time we have prepared thoroughly. Definitely will retake the lost city. I whispered. Traitor. Yes, he came from Yangjo, recommended by the Minister of War, Vice Minister Zhang, rising to the rank of Deputy General Fang. My heart suddenly tightened. Vincent, that cowardly wretch dared to betray the country. I was so angry my eyes went dark, almost collapsing to the ground. Julian hurriedly supported me. Seeing me gasping, face pale, looking as if about to suffocate, he flashed suspicion, tentatively asking, Sister, do you perhaps know Vincent? I hesitated for a moment, then immediately shook my head vigorously. Not considered knowing, my family is originally from Yangjo, only heard his name. Never expected he was a traitor, truly making Yangjo lose face. Vincent harmed General Cynthia and Julian, causing the loss of the city. If I dared to acknowledge our relationship now, it would be no different from seeking my own death. Relatives of traitors were either used for threats or for venting anger, so I had to hide it. Julian clearly did not truly believe my words. He narrowed his eyes at me and then chuckled softly. Don't know. That is a pity, because Vincent's father is on his way to the military camp. I thought if you knew him, you could meet to catch up on old times. I saw darkness before my eyes again. Uncle Nathan was coming here, now was no different from walking into a trap myself. Julian still supported me, continuing, we have investigated in Vincent's family. There is a cousin who once married into the Chen family in the capital city, then left, named Joy. He leaned close to my face, his voice full of teasing. Sister Joy, if you are about to faint, you can fall into my arms. I could not stand it, pushed him away, asking directly, how do you intend to deal with my uncle? Julian replied indifferently, hide from him the matter of his son being a traitor, wait for the right opportunity to use him to threaten Vincent. Seems that was indeed the first choice. I was silent, then slumped to my knees. Your Highness, my cousin's crime is completely wrong. Even if he is executed by Lingqi, it is not regrettable. But Uncle Nathan is a loyal and honest person. Please, out of consideration, spare his life. I knew this plea was completely unrealistic. Vincent betrayed the role of deputy general, causing the death of so many soldiers. How could he be easily forgiven? But Uncle Nathan was grandmother's youngest son. If he truly died, she and the Nine Springs would grieve endlessly. I had to grit my teeth and beg. Strong wind rose in the desert, blowing sand, stinging the face. Sand grains grazed the skin like cutting knives, even falling into eyes, making me unable to open them. Julian looked down at me for a long time, then bent over, resting his chin on his hand, his tone carrying a smile. If you want me to spare him, it is possible. You marry me. Consider it punishment for the Fang family, okay? I did not answer. Perhaps my long silence was the answer. I knew he was half joking, half serious. Perhaps he truly had some feelings for me. A cheesy love, at first sight play in real life, but that was not important, because I did not like him. Sister doesn't agree. Julian sighed. Could it be you intend to keep chastity for your deceased husband? I looked at him and said calmly, no, I will not keep chastity for anyone. I just want to be a healer, compiling a complete medical collection so the medical path can be passed down, saving more people. Marrying into the royal family goes against the path I chose. If your Highness forces it, I will also comply with fate, only fearing my heart will not be willing, sooner or later. Like leaving the Chen family, I will leave your Highness too. Julian repeated the few words, pondering, passing down the medical path. He thought for a while, then burst into laughter. Don't understand, I cannot understand. Both you and my sister are exactly the same, abandoning a leisurely happy life, just liking to bring suffering upon yourselves. Saying that, he stood up, stretching, considering the matter just now put aside, his tone becoming relieved. We won't do anything to your uncle. I raised my head to look at him, feeling both relieved and suspicious. He continued, originally we intended to send people to Yangjo to arrest his whole family, unexpectedly before the news could be transmitted. Your uncle personally came to the border. Hearing the war situation was urgent, he sold half his family fortune, and even called on Yangjo merchants to contribute wealth, personally escorting supplies here. When arriving, his clothes were tattered like a beggar, but the goods were complete and orderly, the fur coats still brand new. Just setting foot in the camp, he asked where your cousin was, telling him to come out to receive the supplies. My sister and I could only look at each other and decided to conceal that matter. After all, the war has not started yet. Waiting until the moment of truly confronting the traitor Vincent, using your uncle, then won't be too late. Hearing this, I was stunned, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Julian sighed softly, his tone carrying a bit of sentiment. You say, your uncle is so loyal and righteous, why did he give birth to a child so soft and weak? Or is there a problem with your family's ancestral grave? I breathed out lightly, shaking my head. Probably there really is a problem with the ancestral grave. Julian burst into loud laughter. Uncle Nathan had aged a lot, the hair at his temples was white, unable to hide it even if he tried. As soon as he saw me, the first sentence he said was, You dared to leave the Chen family, not keeping chastity for your husband, still outside exposing your face to the world all day, truly soiling the family reputation, losing all virtue, smearing the Fang ancestors. I was used to hearing such words. Even when he mentioned losing the Fang family's face, I found it funny. I merely did not keep the so-called observing women's conduct, yet that became a great crime, humiliating the family. If Uncle Nathan knew about Vincent betraying the country, I fear he would use his own blood to sacrifice to heaven in place of the Fang family's honor. I did not retort, only silently checking the pile of supplies he brought. Inside were many medicines and medical tools, all needed me to classify carefully and record cautiously. Seeing this, Uncle Nathan frowned deep as the character ate, starting to scold again. What does a woman like you know about medicine? General Cynthia walked over, first thanking Uncle Nathan for not minding the long distance to bring supplies, then speaking up for me. Miss Joy has brilliant medical skills. 2 months ago she just cured this general. You can be completely assured handing these medicines to her. Hearing the princess speak up, Uncle Nathan could not say more, only muttering, after all, still just a woman. I don't bother arguing. Recently, most of my time was spent researching Northwest herbs. Occasionally I had to treat diseases and bandage wounded soldiers. Every day I was exhausted. Regarding these types of attacks, I no longer had the mood to argue. In the evening, the northern sky was full of stars, bright as diamonds, magnificent yet dazzling. I remembered Leo's eyes again, also sparkling as if containing the entire Milky Way. I watched the rain in Yangjo with him, walked under the snow in the capital city, tasted delicious food in Central Shu, and looked at the vast sea in Yangjo. If he were still alive, surely seeing this starry sky, he would exclaim in surprise like a child again. Thinking of that, my heart felt a bit empty. Suddenly, a jar of wine was held out in front of me. Julian smiled brightly, telling me to drink with him, saying the desert night was too cold, so drink some wine to warm up. I shook my head to refuse. Tomorrow I had to go to a nearby resident's house to treat an illness. Drinking wine would delay work. He frowned, just a commoner. Being a few days late doesn't matter. Drinking with this prince is the important matter. I replied, my tone calm but firm. Life does not distinguish high or low. If one day your highness falls ill while the emperor invites me to drink wine, I will also choose to treat your highness first. Julian raised his eyebrows, smiling with interest, then suddenly grabbed my wrist. Drag her away! Sister speaks very well, then why not go right tonight? After treatment, come back to drink with me. Getting drunk and watching stars, seeing real stars mixed with fake stars is very fun. I was dragged by him, stumbling, almost falling. No way, must drink wine right tonight. I could not win against his whimsical temper, so I had to go along to the nearby village. He rode a horse, I rode a donkey. Julian turned back to ask, why do you like riding donkeys so much? I smiled and replied, Your Highness, I have an affinity with donkeys. I only know how to ride donkeys. Half an hour later, we arrived. The patient's family saw me arrive in the middle of the night. Thinking the illness was so serious I was uneasy and had to brave stars and dew to come. I just scratched my head and smiled apologetically. Not convenient to say it was because the prince had a fit and wanted to drink wine, so I made up a perfunctory reason. The lamp was relit in the house. I borrowed that weak light to perform acupuncture for the patient. Julian leaned against the door frame, boredly drinking wine while waiting. Outside, the wind began to rise. The sound of rustling sand rang out incessantly. Julian suddenly stopped drinking, tucked the wine jar into his belt, then carefully drew his sword, his eyes sharp looking outside. I also felt something wrong, whispering, Is something happening outside? Julian signaled for silence then whispered, It is the barbarians, a team of more than 30 people sneaking into the village. Perhaps they intended to raid Cynthia's camp, just stopping here to rest temporarily, conveniently looting food. Unfortunately, Julian and I were there at exactly the right time. The host reacted extremely quickly. Just as the barbarians were about to rush in, he hurriedly stepped out to welcome them, bowing low and saying, Military sirs, there is a sick person in my house. I fear infection with disease heir. Passing it to you. Sick person. Taking advantage of the argument outside, Julian immediately took off his elitary uniform, stuffed it into the cupboard, and slammed the door shut. At that exact moment, the barbarians pushed the host down, rushing inside. The atmosphere in the house immediately became tense. Julian changed his expression, pretending to be fawning and servile, smiling and saying, Military sirs have arrived, do you have any orders? The leader growled, Late at night like this, why is only your house still lit? What are you doing? I hurriedly replied, this house has a sick person, I am treating him. You are a doctor. His eyes immediately lit up. In wartime, healers were always precious goods, every day there were injured people. I suppressed the fear in my heart, calmly saying, my medical skills are poor, I only know basics to treat haphazardly. The leader narrowed his eyes, stepping to the bedside to look at the patient. The person was trembling like a leaf, several acupuncture needles still stuck in his body. The family members intended to rush up to protect him. I immediately pulled them back. Acting at this time would only invite disaster. I took a deep breath, kneeling down to beg, military sirs, the patient needs quiet, truly cannot serve military sirs. The leader glanced at me, his gaze scrutinizing, sharp as a knife, pressing me until I almost couldn't breathe. I still tried to keep a calm tone. Recently female general came here demanding water and food, even pushing and shoving causing this patient to have a heart attack. Until now he has not recovered. Hope military sirs be lenient, do not scare him further, lest the illness relapse and be very hard to cure. Sure enough, hearing the 3 words a female general, he was immediately interested. He stepped forward, placing the cold blade against my neck. Everyone in the house knelt in terror, crying and begging. Only Julian remained calm. He understood clearly, if the opponent truly intended to kill me, my head would have fallen long ago. Now he was just trying to scare me into obedience. Julian also knelt down, his hand gripping the dagger tight, his eyes closely following every movement of that man. I trembled, trying look scared to the point of tears. Military sir, spare my life! Alright, half was acting, half was truth. My medical collection was not yet finished. Dying here would truly be a waste of a next life. The barbarian laughed contemptuously. Afraid of death like that? I nodded profusely. I cherish my life very much. Rest assured I won't kill you, only. You just mentioned a female general. Does she look like this? Saying that, he pulled out a drawing. It was exactly General Cynthia. I immediately played along. Right, it is this female military sir robbing our food, causing so many people in our village to starve to death. Our villagers hate her to the bone. I lied without blinking, even adding embellishments. Seeing him laugh delightedly, I knew he had taken the bait. He sheathed his sword and used the scabbard to tap lightly on my face. Do you know where this woman's camp is? Cynthia's camp moved constantly after Vincent was captured and betrayed, revealing the old location causing heavy casualties. They had changed places. These barbarians searched forever without finding it. Now hearing there was news, they were overjoyed. Seeing him bite the hook, I immediately said, of course I know. Lead me there, I will reward you with gold, silver, and jewels. He bent down gripping my chin tightly, his tone cold, and if not, I will kill everyone in this village. The strength of his hand was so strong I heard a crack in my jawbone, pain piercing to the brain, but I still tried to force a fawning smile. As long as military sir spares the villagers, I will do whatever you say. Everyone in the house was stunned. Julian and I looked at each other. He understood I wanted to lead this group away to distract them, while he would ride a horse back to report to Cynthia. However, in that moment our eyes met. Julian stood up, smiling fawningly. Military sir, is there a reward for leading the way? The barbarian leader looked at the obsequious appearance, sarcasm flowing deep in his eyes. What? You also want to lead the way for us? Of course, being able to serve military sirs is such a great honor. Why not let me go alone? Women have long hair but short insight. How can they do great things? Taking advantage of the barbarian leader laughing loudly, Julian very obediently used his sleeve to dust off the dust on that guy's armor, posing as a despicable sycophant. The leader was flattered and delighted, laughing loudly and waving his hand. The two of you go together! Julian and I both froze, going together. The smile on Julian's face froze. Seeing this, the leader laughed even more mockingly. Do not worry, I will pay 2 shares of the reward. I won't shortchange anyone. Saying that, he turned around and spoke in the barbarian tongue. People of Great Zhou are all useless cowards, the latter more stupid than the former. Do they really think I will pay them a reward? Unfortunately for him, both Julian and I understood the barbarian language. I glared at Julian once, blaming his cleverness for turning into foolishness. Now it is great, both of us have to go to our deaths, and neither can go report the news. Julian shrank his neck back, avoiding my angry gaze, his face carrying a bit of pitiful innocence. Julian and I led that group of barbarians wandering through the great desert, across the vast sands where footprints stretched into infinity. And then the wind rose, all those traces were covered by sand as if we had never existed. Before long, They would discover I was deliberately leading them in circles. Waiting until their stamina was exhausted, they would surely kill us all. And the strong wind would rise again, sweeping the yellow sand to bury our flesh and bodies, just as it covered those footprints that had just disappeared. From then on, we would completely vanish from the world, without even a tombstone. It was truly an unjust death, and it was all Julian's fault. If not for him ruining things, Cynthia would have received the news early. Who knows, she might have been able to counterattack these barbarians and beat them to pieces. Although I still had to die, at least it would be a meaningful death, a heroic death, a worthy death, a death that moved heaven and earth. To let Uncle Nathan see that the person who truly had the backbone of the Fang family was not the weak son he spoiled, but the little niece he despised. Conveniently, I also wanted to use this death to bind Julian and Cynthia with moral obligation, so that after they returned to the capital, they could use their power to publish the herbal collection I had not yet completed. That way, I could close my eyes in death. It was only a pity that all plans had turned to smoke. I sighed softly, looking at Julian with eyes full of resentment. Actually, I was not afraid of death. Down in the underworld there were my parents, grandmother, and Leo. That place must be very lively. If I arrived, they would surely come to the Nai Bridge to welcome me, and the whole family would have a happy reunion. It was just that dying silently like this was truly too aggrieved. But thinking carefully, from ancient times to the present, every war had countless nameless people falling to secure the mountains and rivers. Among them, some were remembered, but some turned to dust in the wind, not to mention returning to their roots. Even their names were known by no one. Even so, they still charged to the front lines for the great cause of the country, without resentment or regret. That was sacrificing for the country, viewing death as light as a feather. Now I was about to become one of them. Thinking so, I felt honored. While I was immersed in emotion, the barbarian leader suddenly stopped. He threw his head back to drink all the water in his flask, then suddenly strangled my neck, shouting, "Do you dare play tricks with me? We have walked forever, why haven't we arrived yet?" My throat was blocked, my breath cut off, the feeling of suffocation rose, making my vision blur. This time I saw both real stars and fake stars blinking before my eyes. I thought I was about to die, but in that very moment, the tragic scream of the leader rang in my ears. Julian had acted. Fast as the wind, he drew the blade from the opponent's waist. The first slash cut off that man's arm, the second slash severed his head. Decisive and neat, without hesitation. The surrounding barbarians were stunned, terrified into silence by the scene. In those few short seconds, Julian shoved me away, shouting, "Run, quickly!" I did not hesitate and immediately turned to run. Finally, the barbarians reacted. A group chased after me, the rest rushed up to surround Julian. I pulled a bottle of sleeping powder from my sleeve and threw it into the faces of those blocking the way. Taking advantage of their dizziness and stumbling, I kicked each one down. They wanted to struggle up, but their bodies were limp and powerless, only able to collapse on the ground. I snatched a sword, swinging it to deal with the people rushing at me, but because I did not know martial arts I had to slash wildly. After blocking a few moves I was kicked down, and the sword flew far away. Julian saw this and wanted to save me, but he was also covered in wounds, blood soaking his shirt red. Collapsing was only a matter of time. But that was enough. At least before dying, we dragged a few enemies with us, which could be considered a heroic sacrifice. When the large blade swung down in front of my face, I no longer felt fear or trembling. In the final moment, I looked toward the capital. Fortunately, Madame Cheng and Su would not know that I had died. If they knew, they would be very heartbroken. Saving a life brings merit greater than building a 7-story pagoda. Julian, I did not lie to him. The merit I had accumulated for so long finally saved me. The blade slashing down was suddenly blocked in mid-air by an iron rake. I looked surprised. The person holding the rake was the host of the house I went to treat that night. His hands were trembling, clearly very afraid, yet he still risked his life swinging the rake to strike dead the barbarian intending to kill me. "Dr. Fang. Are you alright?" A hand pulled me up from the ground. I also recognized this person. He used to be a patient I saved. I asked, "How did you find me?" The person pointed to the donkey beside him and replied, "This donkey is very smart, it led us here. Rest assured, someone has already run back to the camp to report to the female general in the painting. Surely reinforcements will arrive before long." The donkey seemed to understand the praise, raising its head to bray twice, looking proud. Others also ran over one after another. I looked at each familiar face in that hurried crowd. They had all been my patients, saved by my utmost efforts. Now they returned to save me with the same devotion. The villagers only held hoes, rakes and sickles, no one knew martial arts, and their legs were even trembling, yet not a single person retreated. Each person shouted loudly, swinging farm tools and rushing straight toward the fierce barbarians. Dr. Fang is our benefactor. We must save her. Charge, folks! We are all citizens of Great Zhou. Damn it! Kill all these barbarians who dare to bully the people of Great Zhou. The shout tore through the desert sky, echoing like a bugle call, igniting the spirit in the blood of the Great Zhou people. Julian stared blankly at that scene. His whole body was soaked in blood, wounds forcing him to kneel on one knee, looking up at the group of villagers he used to despise. I ran over to sprinkle hemostatic powder on his wounds, tearing fabric from my shirt to bind the fatal spots tightly. Although the villagers were numerous, they were untrained. Facing the aggressive barbarians, they could only rely on numbers to barely hold on. Seeing people falling, I hurriedly helped Julian up and said, "Hurry, ride the donkey and leave here immediately." He asked, "What about you?" I replied, my tone calm, "Of course I stay with them. We are all citizens of Great Zhou. No one's life is more precious than another's. I stay. If I survive this battle, I can treat the injured." Julian was silent. After a while, I added somewhat awkwardly, "Ah, noble prince, I consider having just saved your life. After you return to the capital, could you please help me compile and publish the rest of the herbal collection?" He did not answer but frowned, looking behind where the villagers were fighting desperately. After a long while, he suddenly chuckled softly. "I remember you have a life-saving pill, right?" I took out the pill from my sleeve. "You mean the soul-returning pill. This medicine only temporarily prolongs life. Once the effect passes without treatment, death will come even faster." He took the pill and swallowed it straight down. "Death is death. I have to go back and kill those barbarians. Relying only on these people, I fear they will all die here." Speaking finished, the medicine took effect. He used his sword to support himself and stood up, his figure tall and thin but still heroic. "You said it yourself, all are citizens of Great Zhou. No one's life is more precious." I stood frozen, watching him wipe the blood from his mouth and walk steadily toward the barbarians. As for me, regaining my composure, I immediately ran to those who had fallen, taking turns dispensing medicine and stopping bleeding to save people. Under the starry sky, myriad tiny stars resembled countless citizens of Great Zhou. But those small people were fighting for a strong Great Zhou. When Xianxia's army galloped to the scene, the barbarians had been almost completely wiped out. Some villagers died in battle, others were seriously injured. Julian had only a breath left, his body full of piercing wounds. Only when seeing his sister arrive did he peacefully collapse unconscious. Xianxia arranged for the villagers thoroughly, granting the relatives of those who sacrificed taels of silver and carving their names into the Book of Martyrs to record their merit. It took me 3 days and 3 nights to pull Julian and the villagers clinging to their last breath back from the underworld to the living world. After that, they were taken to Yangjo city, which was safer, for continued treatment and recuperation. And my good donkey was rewarded with premium feed, extremely well deserved. When Uncle Nathan saw me return covered in blood, his face turned pale. Only when knowing most of it was not my blood did he sigh in relief. "Go back to the Chen family and stay there obediently. Women going to battle fighting and killing, do you know how dangerous it is?" Again those old lectures. At that moment, General Xianxia walked into the tent. Hearing the whole sentence, she glanced at him and snorted coldly. "If it is true as Uncle Feng says, then the female squad in my military camp does not need to go to battle anymore." Uncle Nathan choked on his words, but facing the princess, he dared not argue, so he had to leave resentfully. Xianxia came to give me wine, saying, "My brother told me I must bring this to you." I looked at the jar of white wine that I hadn't had time to drink that night, only knowing to smile bitterly. Obviously, Xianxia also found her brother's childish behavior ridiculous, so she put the wine down and tossed it aside. "By the way, Julian asked me to pass a message to you." She sat by the bed, speaking leisurely. "He said he sees you as a very special person, completely different from other women." I heard this and couldn't help but chuckle, but thinking again that he was after all a prince, I had to speak with moderation. "Thank your highness for the praise, but this commoner believes that is just your highness's illusion." Xianxia raised her eyebrows, asking with interest, "Why?" I replied, "Under this sky, everyone is different. Each person has their own uniqueness. The prince sees me as different simply because he accidentally saw my strong points. But women in the world are all unique. Everyone has their own strengths. Some are good at managing households. Some are good at governing the country. Some play zithers and compose songs. Some dance beautifully enough to topple cities. Some understand agriculture, planting to feed the people. Some build water wheels, realizing mysteries from mechanics. Women in the human world are naturally colorful and diverse. How can only I be the special one? It is just that the prince is still young. After a few more years experiencing life, seeing many people and scenes, surely he will not see me as special anymore. Cynthia listened silently. The phrase, colorful and diverse, was repeated by her several times, and then she clapped her hands and laughed loudly. Dr. Fang truly speaks as if pouring pearls and jade. Saying that, she picked up the wine jar, tilted her head to drink it all, and said, I am a rough person. I do not know how to speak flowery words. I can only drink this cup to show my respect and empathy for you. I hurriedly stood up to return the bow. General flatters me. Cynthia laughed heartily, patting my shoulder heavily. Since the day I entered the military camp, I had never seen her laugh so happily. Usually, she always kept a straight face, rarely talking or smiling. I once heard soldiers say Cynthia was the daughter of the most favored noble consort, loved by the emperor like a pearl. But the noble consort and the empress were at odds, and the empress gave birth to the third princess. The two sides were like water and fire. When the third princess was eyed by the barbarians, the empress begged the emperor to grant a marriage for peace. Cynthia resolutely opposed it, but could not save the situation. The third princess was married off, and in less than 2 years, she was tortured to death. Her daughter lost, the empress collapsed, finally leaving home to take refuge in Buddhism. As for Cynthia, to cut off the path of political marriage, she chose a male concubine herself, publicly acting arrogant so the world could not force her to marry. Later, when the barbarians invaded, she asked to lead the army to war, ignoring the court's fierce opposition. It was the empress at that time who left the temple, personally draping the war robe over her, surprising everyone. A person like her carried too many burdens on her shoulders, so she gradually forgot how to laugh happily. But at this moment she looked at me, her smile radiant as the sun. Perhaps because my words had touched her heart. She said, Dr. Fang, you will become an excellent famous doctor, and I will become a good general. Are you not compiling a herbal collection? Later if I die and azaleas grow on my grave, just pick them to study. Consider it me helping a friend. I smiled. Then I won't be polite. Cynthia smiled, her eyes curving like crescent moons, incredibly radiant. No need to be polite. On the day of attacking the city, dark clouds in the military camp seemed to cover a whole sky. Everyone was neat and solemn, the aura of slaughter covering the desert. Fengdu City had been occupied by barbarians for a year. Cynthia had wanted to retake it for a long time, only delayed a few days because of Vincent's betrayal. Fortunately, she had prepared a thorough plan, so the siege only lasted 5 days before achieving a brilliant victory. This was the first time I witnessed with my own eyes her female squad going to battle. Some wielding red spears, some dancing with broadswords, movements skilled and smooth, strikes decisive and accurate, demonstrating heroic military bearing. As for me in the rear, I rushed to treat the wounded, trying to reclaim each life. This battle was won quickly and beautifully. Cynthia opened a wine banquet to celebrate the victory. Laughter and talk were bustling, wine cups passed from hand to hand. Everyone was excited and jubilant. Only my uncle Nathan had a face of silence mixed with a few parts of sorrow. I walked over and asked, Does uncle find the wine or food not to his liking? He shook his head and asked, Do you know where Vincent went? My hand holding the wine cup froze in mid-air. Then I repeated the old lie. Did I not say already? The army lacks supplies and manpower. My cousin went to nearby Yangjo to transfer troops. I smiled and placed the wine cup in front of him. Uncle, just rest assured and drink. If something happens, surely someone will report it. Uncle Nathan half believed and half doubted, raised the cup to drink a sip, then looked around at the soldiers singing drunkenly, and said in a low voice, Celebrating now is still too early. The barbarians can counterattack at any time. Their power is great, we cannot fail to take precautions. I replied, Uncle is right. General Cynthia calculated that matter long ago. She has found skilled craftsmen in the city, preparing to reinforce the city walls to guard against enemy counterattacks at any time. Uncle Nathan nodded slightly upon hearing this. Indeed, she had the demeanor of a general. After the banquet, everyone was slightly tipsy, staggering back to rest. Cynthia gave the soldiers 3 days off, But the next morning she herself went up to the city tower to inspect the situation. As for me, used to waking up early to research herbs, and worrying about barbarian remnants lurking around so I couldn't sleep, I followed her up to the tower to supervise. Repairing the city walls took effort and strength, but if finished, having high walls as a shield, watchtowers to hide troops, and outer gates to close and trap the enemy, Fengdu would then be solid as a bronze rampart, secure in defense and easy for offense. Pity that heaven did not yield to human wishes. The desert wind rose, the gale turning into a sandstorm sweeping heaven and earth. The plan was forced to pause, construction was delayed by half a month, and the parts already built were also heavily damaged. Cynthia's face became darker and darker, her already rare smile now became even colder. Uncle Nathan was also full of anxiety. It must be said he still had some talent, suggesting to Cynthia that inside the city, earthenware jars should be buried near the city walls, sending people to lie on them to listen. If there was the sound of enemies digging tunnels, it would be detected early. Cynthia listened, and also concentrated on collecting boiling oil, rolling boulders, and large logs to prepare to stop enemies from climbing the walls. However, the enemy army arrived half a month earlier than the intelligence report. Cynthia wore silver armor, standing on the city tower. Behind her, the flag embroidered with the word Zhou fluttered in the cutting desert wind. Beside her were soldiers who had gone through life and death together. Everyone knew this battle was hard to fight, this city hard to hold, but not a single person retreated. Tens of thousands of arrows fell dense as rain. Cloud ladders were continuously erected against the walls. Barbarians climbed up layer by layer, then were cut down layer by layer. Swords and sabers flashed, fire burned to the sky. Before the city gate, waves of fierce assaults followed one another. There were craftsmen still pouring stones to patch the gate, soldiers using their bodies to support the defense. Superiors and subordinates were of one mind to hold the city together. Cynthia's whole body was soaked in blood. She held a sword piercing enemy chests, then chopping off others' heads. Until her hair was messy and her armor torn, she still did not retreat half a step. Uncle Nathan commanded the craftsmen and soldiers keeping the gates, utilizing the manpower in the city to the maximum. After waves of fierce attacks, finally, the enemy army was tired and withdrew, temporarily stopping the assault. Cynthia could breathe at this moment. Her body was exhausted, yet she still forced herself until entering the tent before collapsing onto a chair. Such scenes lasted for 7 consecutive nights, each time touched the boundary of the city collapsing, but miraculously, the city still held. I ran everywhere among the wounded, carrying them to safety with the townspeople, bandaging and treating them. Fengdu City sank into the darkness of death, blood flowed in rivers, sacrifices were countless. However, reinforcements had not arrived yet, despair began to spread. Seeing morale crumbling, Cynthia stepped out, draping the Great Zhou flag over her shoulders. Standing in the middle of the city square, she opened the Book of Martyrs, pages filled with the names of those who had fallen. Her voice echoed throughout the city. I know. This battle is hard to win, the enemy is strong, reinforcements have not arrived, you are all afraid. The person who yesterday fought beside me, today may be eternally separated, but we have no way back. If we surrender, if we run, what awaits us is iron hooves trampling the land of Great Zhou, brothers slaughtered, parents and relatives captured as slaves. We fight to protect them, and also to protect our own honor. My blood mixes with yours, my life is tied to your lives. No matter the outcome, I only hope that later generations mentioning the Battle of Fengdu will call it a legend, not a disgrace. Today the name of every person here will be recorded in the Book of Martyrs. Your merit will be engraved for eternity. She spread out the Book of Martyrs. The rows of ink seemed carved into the paper. Each name was the blood and soul of the people of Fengdu. Everyone raised their wine bowls together, tilted their heads to drink dry, and then threw the bowls to shatter them. The sound of breaking ceramic echoed throughout the city, blending with the surging spirit. The morale of Great Zhou flared up brilliantly. Everyone swore to defend the city to the death. When preparing to start a new battle, I suddenly realized the atmosphere this time was strangely quiet. Uncle Nathan and I went up to the city tower to examine the situation. Hitting our eyes was every soldier bowing their heads, tears in their eyes. The hand holding Cynthia's sword also trembled slightly, her eyes burned like fire, wanting to crush the enemy leader into dust. But the person reacting most violently was Uncle Nathan. He looked at the person standing next to the enemy general in disbelief, rubbing his eyes time and again, finally his face turning gray as ash. That person was Vincent, his son. Vincent rode timidly and fearfully beside the enemy army. Clearly, he also saw Uncle Nathan, but only glanced once and then immediately turned away, avoiding the gaze full of guilt. Uncle Nathan almost fell off the city wall. I hurriedly supported him, intending to call someone to help him down, but he pushed me away, his hands clutching the edge of the wall tightly, his red eyes staring fixedly at his son. No one noticed the fierce storm between the father and son. Everyone's eyes were focused on another person. That was the female soldier sent to deliver the letter for help. Now her whole body was covered in wounds, sitting on a chair carried by the enemy to the front of the city wall. The enemy general pointed his sword at her, shouting to everyone on the wall, "Your messenger has fallen into my hands, do not hope for reinforcements to arrive anymore." Saying that, he touched the flat of his sword to her shoulder, laughing coldly. "Hurry and persuade your comrades, just like you promised in my tent. I have brought you here, now advise them not to struggle uselessly anymore." The female soldier looked up at her old comrades. The soldier's spirit, just encouraged, now gradually faded upon seeing her appear. Seeing the female soldier about to open her mouth, Uncle Nathan hurriedly said to Xianxia, "Shoot the arrow quickly, do not let her speak. If she speaks, morale will collapse, and this battle will be considered lost." But Xianxia did not act. She looked at her subordinate, and the female soldier also looked toward her. The female soldier opened her mouth slightly, her voice hoarse but resonant. "Barbarian petty men, invading Zhou land, slaughtering our people. We fight all our lives, even if we die we must protect the country so the people can live in peace, not betraying this suit of armor." Xianxia burst into tears, everyone shed tears. A moment later, the female soldier's head was severed from her neck, her hot blood still stained the enemy's sword. "Animal, daring to deceive me!" The enemy general spat in rage. He looked up to face hundreds of pairs of burning eyes on the city wall. Every gaze wanted to tear him into pieces. He swallowed saliva, understanding that the scene just now had rekindled the fighting spirit of our army. He turned to shove Vincent hard. "You go up there and persuade them to surrender." Vincent stood frozen, looking awkward. On the city wall was his father. Uncle Nathan looked at him, his eyes fiery. The teachings of childhood still echoed in his head. But then Vincent avoided his gaze, his eyes wavering, intending to open his mouth. However, he didn't have time to speak. An arrow had pierced through his throat. Vincent looked toward the city wall in surprise. That was the first time since meeting again that he truly looked toward his father. Uncle Nathan slowly lowered the arm holding the bow, his lips trembling, his whole body swaying, but he still forced himself to stand firm, shouting loudly, "The traitor Vincent has paid for his crime." His voice was hoarse as if exhausting his last strength. Everyone was dead silent. The enemy general gritted his teeth, gripping the sword hilt until his knuckles turned white, then roared, "Kill! Whoever breaks the city will be greatly rewarded." 10,000 enemy troops rushed forward like locusts covering the sky. Vincent's body fell from the horse's back, a tear still lingering in the corner of his eye. Uncle Nathan watched his son's body being trampled by horses' hooves, too tragic to look at. Finally, he braced his hand against the wall, slowly slumped down, tears welling up sobbing. "My Vincent, my son." I helped Uncle Nathan into the room. Outside, the sound of killing still echoed endlessly. He suddenly spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. I hurriedly used a cloth to wipe it clean and took his pulse, only then knowing that due to many days of fatigue, plus excessive grief, his heart vessels were severely damaged, requiring immediate acupuncture. When I held the needle to pierce the acupoint, Uncle Nathan gave a bitter smile. "Mother, you were right, Vincent should not have joined the army. I harmed him." I whispered, "That was the path he chose, one cannot blame you." But Uncle Nathan only shook his head, his voice trembling, repeating that Vincent used to be very obedient, very smart. It was because he was too strict that he broke his son. I silently inserted the needles, not knowing how to reply. In the eyes of parents who love their children, is there any child who is not obedient? Even if their child committed a crime against heaven, they would still find every way to make up for them. Uncle Nathan was the same. After acupuncture he still did not get better. I worriedly said, "Uncle, everything will pass, you must want to live for it to work." But he spat out another mouthful of blood, laughing softly. "I cannot hold on anymore." He beckoned me closer, his eyes deep and complex. "Fortunately, the Fang family still has you." He whispered as if remembering something. "So what if it is a girl? The Fang family still having you is lucky." Saying that, tears flowed down again. I, finally still lost to eldest brother. I realized Uncle Nathan had reached the point where he could not hold on. He began to speak incoherently, sometimes called eldest brother, sometimes aunt, sometimes mother. Exactly like grandmother's situation before she passed, my heart ached, standing by the bed constantly comforting him. Uncle Nathan's eyes gradually cleared of the fog, his voice was weak, only whispering the name, Vincent. The calls grew quieter and quieter. When he closed his eyes, he still instructed me one last sentence. No need to take me back to Yangjo, bury me in Fengdu. Vincent is also here, I will go down to the underworld and teach him a lesson. I wiped my dry tears, instructing the maid outside to prepare items for the funeral, while I immediately ran to the front lines to save people. In wartime, even time for grief was not allowed to be prolonged. Suppressing the sorrow, I went up to the city wall, seeing this attack was nearing its end. Xianxia had an arrow stuck in her left arm, but her right hand still swung the sword to fight. I hurried over intending to treat her, but she pressed my hand down, pulling the Book of Martyrs from her chest and stuffing it into my arms. I am fine, Dr. Fang. Now immediately go to Yangjo to report, tell them to urgently send troops, marching day and night to get here, we cannot hold on much longer, the enemy troops behind are coming soon. I frowned. What about you? Only with you here can the city be held. Xianxia smiled softly. When I went to war so many people opposed it, slander rose like rolling waves. But for 7 years, I used my achievements to crush every objection. Now too if I leave, the path for women joining the army in the future will be even more difficult than before. Alright, only that my uncle just passed away, please, General, help bury him properly. Of course. I understood her determined heart, immediately standing up to bow. General Xianxia, swords are heartless, please take care. Xianxia returned the bow. If fate allows us to meet again, I will definitely drink with you until we are drunk. In the capital, I still have much good wine stored. The two of us said nothing more. I turned and walked down the wall, while she continued to rush into battle. Beside her, comrades fell one by one, and enemies also disappeared one by one. Fine wine in luminous cups, before one drinks, the pipa summons to mount, drunkenly lying on the battlefield. Do not laugh, my lord. Since ancient times, how many have returned from war? I utilized the riding skills I newly learned, galloping away from Fengdu. Behind me, the citadel grew smaller in the twilight. The sun setting to the west was red as blood. On the road, I dared not rest for even a moment. It took 5 full days to arrive. That good horse also died of exhaustion on the road. I delivered the urgent letter to Julian. Hearing the news, he immediately led reinforcements toward Fengdu, while I collapsed on the bed from exhaustion, lying for half a month before recovering. Later, history books recorded the Battle of Fengdu with endless praise. In the 30th year of Yuanfeng, General Xianxia commanded 5,000 soldiers to defend Fengdu against 50,000 barbarian troops, until Emperor Zhou Renzong, who was then the 5th prince, brought troops to reinforce and break the siege. Xianxia and all subordinate soldiers died in battle. Emperor Zhou Qingzong, based on the Book of Martyrs, posthumously awarded honors, and the whole country went into mourning. That battle became an eternal model of winning with few against many, defending to death in desperate straits, admired and praised ceaselessly by future generations. Xianxia did not fail her mission. It was only a pity that the fine wine she once promised to drink with me, I could never taste again. The ground of Fengdu was covered with long streaks of blood everywhere. Julian grieved for a whole month. But after all, he was Xianxia's brother, that resilient blood still flowed in him. He suppressed his grief while reinforcing the city walls until the place was solid as a wall of bronze and iron, impenetrable. When Julian prepared to return to the capital, he asked if I wanted to go with him. I shook my head. I still had my own road. He smiled softly, wiping dry tears, and said, "You and my sister are alike, both liking to bring suffering upon yourselves, but both deserve the world's respect." He mounted his horse, his back elongated under the sunset light, waving goodbye. Dr. Fang, rest assured I will always remember this life-saving grace, and in the future, I will definitely repay it. I also raised my hand to bid farewell. The road of Jianghu is long. If there is fate, surely we will meet again. Since then, another 10 years passed. Time no longer had any concept for me. Just the endless cycles of the 4 seasons: spring, summer, autumn, winter. With each season, I came into contact with different herbs, met insects, birds, flowers, grasses, mountains, and rivers in all 4 directions. The places I set foot in increased day by day. The content in my herbal collection also became richer and more complete. I traveled all over the world, using medicine to save people, saving the poor, saving the sick, not ashamed of the title of healer. One day I passed through a region suffering from an epidemic. so I stopped to treat it. Accompanying me were more than a dozen female medical officers. They wore the court dress of the Imperial Medical Bureau, moving among patients skillfully, each holding a small notebook in hand. Curious, I immediately asked and learned that the Imperial Medical Bureau in the capital city had started expanding training for doctors to identify herbs throughout the world 10 years ago, selecting regardless of gender. The curriculum they used was compiled by a legendary female doctor named Joy and her short-lived husband. To this day, that book still has no official name. Because Emperor Julian once said this was only a draft, Dr. Joy was still continuing to perfect it. I chuckled softly. So the repayment Julian mentioned was this matter. That year in the desert, I told him I wanted to pass down the medical path. Sure enough, he had kept those words in his heart. Those young female doctors, hearing the name Joy, all showed immense admiration. They said whether in the Imperial Medical Bureau or among the people, anyone who had read Dr. Joy's book would respectfully call her Master. It was only a pity that no one knew where she was now and whether the rest of that medical book was completed or not. I did not reveal my true identity, only making up a name and vague background to pass the story. After finishing treating the illness with them, I looked back toward the capital city. Wandering outside for many years, it was true I hadn't returned for a long time. I didn't even know the major events in the capital. I smiled, climbing onto the back of my little donkey, slowly heading toward the capital city. The gatekeeper of the Chen manor had changed to a young servant. He stopped me, but did not show disdain because of my tattered clothes. Instead, hearing my words, he immediately went to ask the current master of the Chen family. Not long after, Su hurried over the threshold. When seeing me, the woman once named the Iron Lady of the capital cried like rain, rushing straight into my arms. Young mistress, 15 years, do you know how much we missed you? I gently stroked her back to comfort her. Am I not back now? During the years I drifted everywhere, sending letters was extremely difficult. There were letters I sent they did not receive, there were letters they sent back I did not know of. But thanks to a few scattered letters, I still knew the current situation of the Chen family. Su managed the Chen manor methodically. Thanks to the care of her and Felix, Madame Cheng's body was still healthy and safe. The Chen family had nothing left for me to worry about. While the two of us were choking with joy, a teenager walked over, polite in appearance, respectfully bowing to greet. Mother, who is this? I was stunned, guessing immediately the person in front of me was Felix, only that the word, mother, made my heart sting with pity for Su. Su wiped her tears, saying to the teenager, "This is your mother, also the true mistress of the Chen family." Felix listened, slightly confused, then immediately bowed deeply. Mother, wishing mother peace. I laughed, patting his shoulder. Haven't met for many years, you have become so handsome. After a few pleasantries, we went together to Madame Cheng's courtyard. As soon as she saw me, tears welled up, she pulled me into her arms, constantly calling, "Little Joy, my little Joy, were you miserable out there all these years? Did anyone bully you?" Speaking to this point, her tears soaked my hand. "My little Joy, why are you so thin? Your hands are all calloused. How much hardship have you suffered?" I smiled softly, shaking my head, taking a handkerchief to wipe her tears. I did not suffer. Traveling everywhere these years, I learned a lot and saw many interesting things. I told them each story of the journey, especially in the Langguang region, where there was a group of women called self-calmed women. Never marrying all their lives, two people becoming companions, relying on each other forever. Madame Cheng listened, stunned for a long time, then whispered, "So there is such a way of living. So in this world, there is still a land without slander, not bound by the rules of women's conduct." She smiled. How truly good that is. We chatted until late at night, knowing I was tired from the long journey. They told me to rest early. I returned to Leo's study, where everything was kept exactly as it was in the beginning. Sitting on that bed, I looked around for a long, long time, as if Leo had returned to the days he sat by my side, arranging herbs with me, still praising me as beautiful, smart, the spirit of the human world. I smiled in my breath. It seemed the scent of him still lingered. I gradually sank into a deep sleep. The next morning, I went to the place where Cynthia was buried. Hearing my name, the guards immediately let me in without blocking. I brought good wine to offer her. Just arriving in front of the grave, my gaze was attracted by the brilliant red color. Azaleas. It was azaleas. Legend says that a general sacrificed on the battlefield, the body not retrieved in time. The next spring, the place where he fell grew full of blooming azaleas. Sacrificing for the country moved even the blue sky. The gift Cynthia promised me, I truly received. Tears bored my eyes. I raised the wine cup, one cup to respect her, one cup I drank as a farewell. I carefully picked an azalea flower, placing it on the last page of the herbal collection. Cynthia, thank you for that gift. I truly like it very much. Spring filled the air, the east wind blew through the capital city. On the very last page of the book, I neatly recorded Leo's Song of 100 Herbs, and added a small line of text, a masterpiece by Leo, the genius. In spring, pick dandelions, clear heat, disperse fire. In summer, pick honeysuckle, detoxify and remove heat rash. In autumn, harvest wild chrysanthemum, brighten eyes and calm liver. In winter, dig licorice root, harmonize 100 warm medicines. 100 herbs are treasures, ancestors pass down wisdom. Treating illness requires persistence, healthy throughout 4 seasons. After writing, I laughed until I couldn't close my mouth, but the paper was soaked in a small patch. Waiting for the ink to dry, I gently closed the herbal collection. I leaned against the window. The wind outside gently blew into the room. All things out there were flourishing. At 15, I set foot in the capital city, naively facing all unknown things. 20 years passed. I met so many people and also said goodbye to so many people. From the Shay girl back then, I step by step learned medicine, practiced everywhere, experienced war, becoming the healer in my own heart. I do not know how much longer I will live, nor do I know how many separates and sufferings the future holds, but what need is there to be sad? Just calmly step forward, fearing no storms, no matter how many obstacles, just smile and say one sentence. Spring has come. Let's sing the song of spring together. The story ends here for now. If it touched your heart or left you thinking,